headquarters. Parag Agrawal himself was appointed Twitter CEO last year after Jack Dorsey stepped down, and Agrawal, of course, was stepping in to ensure that the ship continues to sail, but it's completely rocked. Elon Musk has completely rocked the Twitter boat with one announcing that he's going to take over, and secondly that he's going to change the way things are run at the Twitter headquarters. Now, that said, a bit about Parag Agrawal, because there's a lot of excitement in some quarters in India that he was appointed as Twitter CEO in November last year. This was after Jack Dorsey had stepped down. Now, Parag Agrawal himself is an IIT Bombay and Stanford alumnus. Now, Agrawal has joined Twitter over a decade ago when there were fewer than 1,000 employees at the company, like any other small company that started. Of course, as far as Parag Agrawal goes, not very popular with Elon Musk's team, and Elon Musk himself has been attacking him and attacking the close team of Parag Agrawal, even on the social media. And Musk had also, in the past, he singled out people like Vijaya Gadde at Twitter, criticizing her for a role in content moderation decisions. And Twitter has this very notorious sort of a reputation for, taking decisions, moderating content. Of course, they've been pulled up by the Indian government in the past with the manner in which they deal with issues and situations. And, for example, you had the entire episode of banning Donald Trump on Twitter. He was permanently suspended. So there have been several controversial issues, and you saw the dramatic entry of Musk yesterday. He walked into the Twitter headquarters with that sink, and he was meeting with engineers, advertising executives, and he has promised to sort of completely transform Twitter by loosening the content moderation rules, making its algorithm more transparent, nurturing subscription businesses, as well as laying off employees that he felt were useless in the system. So I think it's all kicking in, and it's going to be interesting how things pan out in the next few days and weeks to come. Back to you for now.
Right, Niranjan, clearly a very interesting scenario. But, also we'd like to understand that in between there was a sense that while Twitter wanted the deal to really go through, Musk was not so keen. And now we see that all Twitter's top executives are fired. That's what we really can't understand. Why was Twitter so eager for this deal to go through, even though Musk expressed his reluctance for various objections that he had?
Well, it's, the reluctance was that once he felt that the share prices were overvalued, and he felt that, just before he was purchasing Twitter, there was a lot of non-transparency as far number of fake accounts, number of bots were concerned. He feels that the share prices were overvalued in many cases, and he's been fighting these issues. I mean, some of these issues have also reached the court. He's been fighting it out in court. And just before the final takeover, Twitter shares were frozen yesterday, for example, in the stock exchange in the US. So, and he's been sort of he hasn't just taken it over just like that. I mean, he's taken it over to change things around at Twitter to ensure that it's not just a social platform where people express their views, but it's a social platform where people express their views and is also accountable in the manner in which the operations are run. So in that sense, I think you can expect these changes because he didn't agree with the way in which Twitter was being run. And he's made it very clear, even before taking over officially, he's been, having a go at the CEO and the top team at Twitter for being completely non-transparent in the way they have run the businesses. And of course, I mean, and he made it very public, speaking about some of the reports that they've generated, their claims about bots, for example. Anybody who uses Twitter knows the number of bots out there, and these are not really genuine accounts, and so many concerns around the manner in which content would be moderated on Twitter. So I think overall he would want to change things around, make it cleaner, make it easier for people to operate, make it more transparent, make it more user-friendly. And Twitter, almost became had this very notorious reputation for being a haven for the left liberal lobby around the world, they had a say, a great say, if I can say that, in the way Twitter was run, and he would want to change that impression. I think perhaps that's going to be one of the top changes that he will bring to the table.
Well, many thanks, Niranjan, for joining us there and for sharing with us, breaking that for us, that news that, well, we are bringing you at this hour. Breaking news coming in since this morning. That's the image, can we say, that's rocking social media circles. Elon Musk at the Twitter headquarters as he takes over as Twitter chief. And we'll have to wait and watch what happens next. Moving on now to other top news stories. Union Law Minister Kiren Rijiju has stirred a row, accusing India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru of creating the Kashmir problem. Here's more.
India is now talking of taking back Pakistan-occupied territory.
जब हम 22 फरवरी 1949 को भारतीय संसद में सर्वसम्मत पारित हुए प्रस्ताव को अमल में लाएंगे और उसके अनुरूप हम अपने बाकी बचे हिस्से जैसे गिलगित और बाल्टिस्तान तक पहुंचे.
But for 75 years, even Kashmir's integration with India was lined with ruptures.
What our first Prime Minister Nehru ji did with Kashmir has caused so much of tragedy. Because of that blunder, today Kashmir has unnecessarily become an issue, a disputed issue.
In a 1,590-word article, the Union Law Minister has listed just why today marks the 75th anniversary of Nehru's blunders bleeding India.
What blunders committed by Pandit Nehru ji has been corrected, has been undone by Modi ji. That is why I thought today is a perfect anniversary, perfect occasion to bring out the truth in front of the people of the country.
The Gupkar gang that had much to say yesterday is silent.
जो पार्लियामेंट में 1949 में जम्मू कश्मीर के हवाले से जो 370 का मुद्दा यहाँ की स्पेशल स्टेटस का मुद्दा है, उसको उन कागजों को निकाल के पढ़े. अगर वो चाहते हैं कि जम्मू कश्मीर का रिश्ता जो है वो जायज तरीके से मुल्क के साथ बने रहे, तो उनको 2019 का फैसला जो है उसको बदलना पड़ेगा.
But the BJP is confronting the Congress head.
जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी की जो ये 5 भूल थी, इसको दबाए रखने का एक कुंठित प्रयास कांग्रेस पार्टी द्वारा किया गया, जिसमें झूठ फैलाया गया और सत्य को दबाया गया.
Did Jawaharlal Nehru prioritize installing Sheikh Abdullah over an integrated India? Could the consolidation of Pakistan in 1947 have been avoided sooner?
हमलावर खबरदार,
हम कश्मीरी हैं तैयार.
हमलावर खबरदार,
हम कश्मीरी हैं तैयार.
Was it not a Himalayan mistake to take an internal Kashmir issue to the UN?
यूएन के अंदर जाने का निर्णय भी प्रधानमंत्री जवाहरलाल जी का व्यक्तिगत निर्णय था और मैं मानता हूं एक हिमालयन मिस्टेक थी, हिमालय से भी बड़ी गलती थी यूएन में जाना.
The Congress is in denial mode.
किरण रिजिजू जी पुराने इतिहास से शायद वाकिफ नहीं है और जो ये बातें कर रहे हैं वो अपनी जानकारी की कमी का सबूत देते हैं इससे वो.
And Farooq Abdullah is yet to talk about these historic realities that are at the core of every problem faced today.
हालात कभी यहाँ ठीक नहीं थे, कभी इलेक्शन होते रहे. आपको याद होगा कि जब मेजर फ्लड्स आए उस वक्त भी इलेक्शन हुए, जबकि हमने उनसे गुजारिश की थी कि इसको थोड़ा सा डिले नहीं किया और आज 3 साल से इलेक्शन नहीं हो रहे. ये हाल.
It is time for the bitter truth on how Nehru compromised India to see light. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
And it's time now for a short break, but coming up after that, all the news here in Republic on Prime Minister Modi's address at the Chintan Shivir of Home Ministers of States, which will take place today via video conferencing. Also coming up, Russian President Vladimir Putin hails India's foreign policy, says a lot has been done under the Modi government.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 not-for-profit private university for 10 years, with top 10 ranked institutions in management, engineering, biotech, law, masscom, telecom, hospitality, fashion and more. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
South Kashmir, 1 terrorist have been neutralized and also arms and ammunition have been recovered.
The recoveries of the explosive has been made by the Jammu and Kashmir police.
Uttar Pradesh, Azam Khan has been handed a jail term, and this was in the hate speech case earlier.
कूड़े की राजनीति अरविंद केजरीवाल ने अब शुरू कर दिया।
फेस ऑफ हो गया है, आमने सामने आ गए हैं आम आदमी पार्टी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता।
On the Yamuna River, while the toxic bomb floats all around them. BJP leaders reaching Yamuna River and they're once again questioning the Aam Aadmi Party government about why this is happening.
बीजेपी के जो कार्यकर्ता है वो उनका विरोध करते हुए यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं आप, यहाँ पे पूरी तरीके से उनका विरोध किया जा रहा है। काले झंडे यहाँ पे लिए हुए हैं बीजेपी के कार्यकर्ताओं के द्वारा और लगातार वो विरोध कर रहे हैं। जो बीजेपी के कार्यकर्ताओं के द्वारा यहाँ पे विरोध किया जाए, सड़क पे उतरे हैं। सुबह से ही उनका साफ तौर पे कहना है कि केजरीवाल को वो वापस यहाँ से लौटाएंगे, क्योंकि केजरीवाल ने ना तो कचरे को लेकर के कभी काम।
Breaking news here on Live and Breaking. Banned organisation Popular Front of India, former State Secretary of Kerala, C.A. Rahul, who was on the run for many weeks, was arrested by an NIA team from his home in Pattambi in Palakkad. So the former secretary of the Kerala of banned outfit PFI has been arrested. And Ashwin joining us with this major breakthrough of intelligence agencies. Ashwin, take us through this breaking development. Rauf has been arrested. He's the Kerala secretary of the PFI.
Absolutely. The banned organization Popular Front of India, the State Secretary C.A. Rauf has been arrested by the National Investigation Agency last night from his home at Pattambi in Palakkad district. Now, C.A. Rauf was absconding after an illegal strike that he had declared and for which about 350 plus cases have already been registered against him. But the Kerala government has also stated that lost close to 5.2 crores have been had for the KSRTC bus which was destroyed as part of this illegal strike. Now, more importantly, the output is bad, so there are a large number of cases, especially terror cases and other cases that has been registered against C.A. Rauf for instigating riot. And also, this arrest is very critical as far as the NIA is also concerned, for the reason that some of the main transactions of the banned outfit, the Popular Front of India, has all been done at the behest of the secretary. So, arresting C.A. Rauf will bring in more information on the Popular Front of India and its activities, which has spread its tentacles across the nation as well.
Well, many thanks, Ashwin, for joining us there. And so, breaking news, we're getting you here at this point. The National Investigation Agency has arrested C.A. Rauf, who is the secretary of banned Popular Front of India, from his home in Palakkad. It's time now for a short break, but we are tracking this story very closely. More details coming up on the other side on this and more. Stay tuned.
TRS ministers were seen on the streets staging protest against the BJP. They were seen burning the effigies and also raising slogans against the BJP.
And that this has become more clear after the public accessed the Vadodara riot clincher tape the moment the riots happened.
The National War Memorial in New Delhi, the monument dedicated to our brave hearts who gave their lives in various wars in the service of the nation.
South Kashmir. One terrorist have been neutralized and also arms and ammunition have been recovered.
The recoveries of the explosive has been made by the Jammu and Kashmir police.
Uttar Pradesh Azam Khan has been handed a jail term, and this was in the hate speech case earlier.
कूड़े की राजनीति अरविंद केजरीवाल ने अब शुरू कर दिया।
फेस ऑफ हो गया है, आमने सामने आ गए हैं आम आदमी पार्टी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता।
On the Yamuna River, while the toxic bomb floats all around them. BJP leaders reaching Yamuna River and they're once again questioning the Aam Aadmi Party government about why this is happening.
South Kashmir. One terrorist have been neutralized and also arms and ammunition have been recovered.
The recoveries of the explosive has been made by the Jammu and Kashmir police.
Uttar Pradesh Azam Khan has been handed a jail term, and this was in the hate speech case earlier.
Billionaire Elon Musk has completed his $44 billion takeover of Twitter and fired the social media company's 4 top executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal and legal executive Vijay Gadde. The deal's closing removes a cloud of uncertainty that has hung over Twitter's business, employees and shareholders for much of the year. The Twitter executives who were fired include Agarwal, Gadde, Chief Financial Officer Ned Siegel and General Counsel Sean Edgett. The NHRC on Thursday issued a notice to Rajasthan government over reports that girls are being auctioned on stamp paper in half a dozen districts of the state, and the refusal thereof is resulting in the rape of their mothers to settle financial disputes on the diktats of caste panchayats. The National Human Rights Commission, the NHRC, has taken suo motu cognizance of a media report in this regard.
The National Human Rights Commission has taken suo motu cognizance of a media report that in some districts of Rajasthan, the caste panchayats are very active in redressal of disputes, and especially in the matters where somebody has taken a loan and is unable to pay back the loan. So the caste.
Amid the ongoing MLA's poaching controversy that unfolded in Telangana on the 26th of October between the ruling TRS and BJP, the 3 people who were arrested by police were produced before the magistrate at his residence. The ACB court rejected the request of Cyberabad police to remand the 3 accused. The judge has asked the police to issue 41A CRPC notice to the accused and investigate the matter. ACB judge has asked police to follow SC guidelines as well. Wading into the poaching controversy, Rahul Gandhi has said both the TRS and the BJP are 2 sides of the same coin.
कहना चाहता हूं, हमारे लिए TRS और BJP एक ही चीज है। ये एक ही सिक्के के 2 भाग हैं और ये दोनों एक साथ मिलकर काम करते हैं। ये आपको समझने की जरूरत है। ये एक दूसरे की मदद करते हैं। दिल्ली में TRS उनकी मदद करती है और तेलंगाना में बीजेपी इनकी मदद करती है।
Russian President lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's independent foreign policy, saying that a lot has been done under his leadership in India, as he called him a patriot of the country, according to Reuters' translation of Putin's statement, which he said in Russian. Hailing India's Make in India drive, Putin said a lot has been done under the leadership of the Prime Minister and that the future belongs to India. It can be proud of the fact that it's the largest democracy in the world. And Prime Minister Modi is to address the Chintan Shivir of Home Ministers of States today via video conferencing. All the updates on this and more coming up after a very short break. Stay tuned.
कूड़े की राजनीति अरविंद केजरीवाल ने अब शुरू कर दिया।
फेस ऑफ हो गया है, आमने सामने आ गए हैं आम आदमी पार्टी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता।
On the Yamuna River, while the toxic foam floats all around them. BJP leaders reaching Yamuna River and they're once again questioning the Aam Aadmi Party government about why this is happening.
बीजेपी के जो कार्यकर्ता है वो उनका विरोध करते हुए यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं आप, यहाँ पे पूरी तरीके से उनका विरोध किया जा रहा है। काले झंडे यहाँ पे लिए हुए बीजेपी के कार्यकर्ताओं के द्वारा और लगातार वो विरोध कर रहे हैं। जो बीजेपी के कार्यकर्ताओं के द्वारा यहाँ पे विरोध किया जाए, सड़क पे उतरे हुए सुबह से ही उनका साफ तौर पे कहना है कि केजरीवाल को वो वापस यहाँ से लौटाएंगे, क्योंकि केजरीवाल ने ना तो कचरे को लेकर के कभी काम किया है, ना ही कुछ और।
TRS ministers were seen on the streets staging protest against the BJP. They were seen burning the effigies and also raising slogans against the BJP.
And that this has become more clear after the public accessed the Vadodara riot clincher tape the moment the riots happened.
The National War Memorial in New Delhi, the monument dedicated to our brave hearts who gave their lives in various wars in the service of the nation.
South Kashmir. One terrorist have been neutralized and also arms and ammunition have been recovered.
The recoveries of the explosive has been made by the Jammu and Kashmir police.
Uttar Pradesh,
South Kashmir. One terrorist have been neutralized and also arms and ammunition have been recovered.
The recoveries of the explosive has been made by the Jammu and Kashmir police.
Uttar Pradesh, Azam Khan has been handed a jail term, and this was in the hate speech case earlier.
Prime Minister Modi is to address the Chintan Shivir of Home Ministers of States today via video conferencing. In a massive move, Elon Musk completes Twitter's takeover, sacks top Twitter officials, including the CEO Parag Agarwal. Russian President Vladimir Putin hails India's foreign policy, says a lot has been done under the Modi government. And the NHRC issues a notice to the Rajasthan government over alleged auctioning of girls to settle financial disputes. Good morning and welcome. This is live and breaking on Republic TV. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Now, reports seem to suggest that Elon Musk has completed his takeover of Twitter, and what we are getting to hear is that top officials of Twitter, including the CEO Parag Agarwal and CFO Ned Segal, have been asked to leave. This, of course, is news we are just getting. What we are also given to understand right now is that even the legal head has been asked to leave. Now, The Twitter takeover was completed this morning. In fact, soon after that, Elon Musk tweeted, "The bird is freed," in an apparent reference to the deal closing. Now, a number of top executives, including the top boss Parag Agrawal, have reportedly been fired. This, of course, brings to a close the saga that saw Twitter go to court to hold the billionaire to terms of takeover deal that he had tried essentially to escape. Now, we are, of course, still awaiting to hear from Elon Musk, but pictures on your screen are from yesterday, in fact, where Elon Musk was seen carrying a sink to the Twitter headquarters in San Francisco, and these pictures, of course, seem to indicate that it's still sinking him for him. This deal has gone through. Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, of course, was also seen in the cafeteria earlier this morning. All right, Mr. Ratan Sharda on the phone line with us. Mr. Sharda, good morning. Thank you for joining us. How do you see this going forward? I mean, we know his views on Twitter in the past. He has, of course, famously spoken about the fact that Donald Trump was banned from Twitter, and he thought that that was something that should not have been done. But going forward, how do you see Twitter's policies changing?
Well, I think we cannot predict what Elon Musk will do. After all, he's an industrialist businessman and who has his own business interests. But the behavior that he has shown so far shows that he is keen about absolutist freedom of speech, and that's a good sign. And his reaction, his responses so far show that he will be trying to put in free speech in true sense in Twitter, which is a huge influencing platform. Unfortunately, Twitter had become a home for leftist jihadist elements who could block the voice of any independent, democratic mind person who could speak truth. And the truth was not pleasant to many people. Those were blocked, those were banned. And we have history of such bans in US, in India. So I think others I don't know. So this has to go. If it is a public platform, it is not an edited platform. And as they claim it's a public platform, it has to be open to all. They cannot be judged and the jury on people. So I think Elon Musk will take care of that. But we will see as it comes forward what is his own business interest. For sure, it's a welcome sign.
Absolutely. Mr. Sharda, appreciate you speaking to us on Republic TV. Thank you very much for joining us. So we are, of course... Well, in fact, news is coming in that Arvind Kejriwal, the Delhi Chief Minister and the convener of the Aam Aadmi Party, has written to the Prime Minister saying that he's in fact tweeted about this. I think he says, "I've written a letter to the Prime Minister requesting on behalf of 130 crore Indians that the picture of Lakshmi Ganesh ji should be put on Indian currency notes along with those of Mahatma Gandhi." Now, those pictures on your screen are of the letter that I think has been written to the Prime Minister by Arvind Kejriwal, the Chief Minister of Delhi and the convener of the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, do remember that this has been something that was brought forward by Arvind Kejriwal day before yesterday in a press conference where he said that he wants currency notes that are newly minted to have pictures of the Hindu deities of Lakshmi and Ganesh on one side and of Gandhiji on the other. Piyush Auri reporting on this. He has more details. Piyush, this of course is the letter that we are showing our viewers that's gone forward from the Delhi Chief Minister to the Prime Minister. Tell us more, Piyush.
So yes, Arvind Kejriwal, after doing a press conference, has now finally written an official letter to the Prime Minister saying that he is of the view that along with Gandhiji, the pictures of Gandhiji, the pictures of goddesses Lakshmi and Ganesh should also be used in the currency notes. As he said in the press conference, he again said that he is advocating for this move because he feels that the country as of now is going under the economic crisis, and he feels that if there is going to be no divine intervention, if there is going to be no blessings of God, the economy is not going to revive. So he feels, Arvind Kejriwal feels that if we are going to be using the images of goddess Lakshmi and god Ganesh, which is of much most importance to us economically, spiritually, and in all the troubles of solving all the troubles,
it is going to definitely make us come out of the economic crisis which Arvind Kejriwal feels the country is in. Back to you, the studio.
Now, otherwise also, Piyush, this has been looked largely upon as a political gimmick by Arvind Kejriwal. It's been seen widely as one, coming right ahead of the elections.
So you rightly said that it definitely does seem to be a political gimmick by Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Not only does he want to capitalize on 89% Hindu vote bank in the upcoming elections of Gujarat, but he also wants to consolidate a sizable amount of vote bank in Municipal Corporation of Delhi, which is going to be held in the month of December probably. Now, it is of huge political stake for Arvind Kejriwal because he wants to not only win Gujarat, but he also wants to win the MCD and wants to come over here for the first time in power. How much of this rhetoric, how much of this saying that he wants the images of goddesses Lakshmi and God Ganesh to be placed on currency notes going to help him? It's going to be interesting to see. As of now, what we now know is that after making a political statement through the press conference, he has already written an official letter to Prime Minister saying that he advocates placing God Lakshmi and God Ganesh on the Indian currency notes.
All right, let's go across to Mr. Shehzad Poonawalla, who now joins me on the phone line. Mr. Poonawalla, good morning. How do you see this letter that's coming in from Arvind Kejriwal? Of course, he did speak about it day before yesterday in a press conference. But today, of course, taking that one step further, writing to the Prime Minister about this. Do you see this largely as a political poll gimmick?
I have two things to say. One, firstly, the point of bringing the picture of Hindu deity and country and these have been flourished by media cases.
All right, Mr. Poonawalla, I think that's a very poor audio connection that we have with you. We're going to come back to you in just a bit after we fix that. But let's go back to Mr. R.P. Singh, who also is with us on the phone line. Mr. R.P. Singh, what do you make of this?
Well, he just did it because of the election, forthcoming election in Gujarat and Delhi, and then he thank you to the Gandhi. But the fact is, within their party, they're also not together on this. His party is also not with him on this. I will appreciate if Mr. Bhagwant Mann can also write similar letter. Will he ask Mr. Bhagwant Mann to write a similar letter to the Prime Minister? It won't happen. Because within party, they are not one. And also, that if he is so keen on getting the picture of Mahalakshmi and Ganesh ji on the currency note, then when will they start paying allowances similar to imams and Maulanas of Delhi to the pujaris and the currencies of the gurdwaras and the temples who do Archana Puja of Ganesh ji and Lakshmi ji in their respective temples? They almost pay 40,000 rupees to each masjid every month on behalf of Delhi government. When do they start doing the same for the temples and gurdwaras in Delhi and Punjab?
All right, Mr. R.P. Singh, appreciate your speaking to us on Republic TV. Thank you for joining us. So that's the comment that's coming in from the BJP. Let's also go back on the ground, I think, to Piyush Ori. Now, Piyush, you just heard, views of the BJP where they clearly say that they see this as a poll gimmick coming as it does, ahead of the two assembly elections.
So yes, you rightly said that there has been a very sharp political reaction from BJP ever since Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, advocated placing the images of Goddess Lakshmi and God Ganesh on the Indian currency notes. But it is also important to note the context in which he may have mentioned about advocating this move. Now, according to him, he says that this is going to revive the Indian economy, which is under the doldrums. But there is also a very important context. For long, there has been a lot of criticism of Arvind Kejriwal of being anti-Hindu. First, there was a lot of criticism which was meted out on Arvind Kejriwal and his party after there was no concrete action taken on Rajendra Pal Gautam, the controversial leader in Aam Aadmi Party, who had attended a convocation Buddhist ceremony in which there were anti-Hindu statements. Number one. Second, the strict stance taken by Arvind Kejriwal and his government to prohibit the usage of crackers also did not go very well with several Hindu organizations. So was this also a move to appease these Hindu organizations? Was it also a move to consolidate the Hindu vote bank, which Arvind Kejriwal did feel that was slipping away from it? It would be very important for us to view it in the days to come. But as of now, what we can definitely say is that not only there have been sharp reactions from the BJP, but several members within the Aam Aadmi Party have also in a way distanced themselves from this advocacy by Arvind Kejriwal of placing the images of gods in the Indian currency notes.
Absolutely, Piyush Auri, of course, continuing to bring us the various political angles that we are getting to this. Now, Piyush, of course, the Aam Aadmi Party wants to drive home the point also, as you rightly pointed out, that economically they believe that, things aren't really as hunky-dory. But apart from that, Piyush, it's also something that we've seen Arvind Kejriwal carry on with, this trying to be someone who's on the side of Hindutva. And we've seen it consistently coming in from him, whether it's all those functions that he's been holding in Delhi, the Chhat Puja controversy that's erupted. So largely, that's the message that he's trying to send.
You rightly pointed out that yes, of late we have been seeing that there have been several moves which have been undertaken by Arvind Kejriwal that shows that he is trying to
I'm going to come back to you, Piyush, just a second. Mr. Rashid Alvi on the phone line with us. Mr. Alvi, good morning. How do you see this move from Arvind Kejriwal, where he's written this letter to the Prime Minister asking for, pictures of Lakshmi ji and Ganesh ji on currency notes? Of course, the BJP is calling it a big political gimmick. How do you see it?
Actually, this period where we are passing through, Kejriwal and Bharatiya Janata Party both are of this opinion. If they will talk about Hindu Dharam, Hindu Devi Devta, it will be easy for them to get the power. That is the reason Kejriwal is also doing the same thing, BJP is also doing the same thing. They always talk about Jai Shri Ram, and now here they started to talk about Devi Devta and Ganesh ji and Lakshmi ji on currency notes, nothing else. Both of them can be set right only by media of the country. If media takes a stand to make them right, everything will be in order. Unfortunately, you people also not criticizing both of them. And country is being disturbed, destroying. Both are destroying the country. It is very, very unfortunate. If Kejriwal is of the opinion that there should be currency notes, there should be pictures of Lakshmi and some other Devi Devta on our currency. Someone can say that there should be a picture of Masih also, Christ also. Some other one from other religion can say that picture of their Devti Devta should also be there on the currency note. What is this? It is very unfortunate. And I request you that you should criticize both of them. It is a secular country. You can't divide this country between communities and caste and creed. But unfortunately, they are doing for the sake of their political benefit.
Right, Mr. Alvi from the Congress Party, thank you very much for joining us. So Mr. Rashid Alvi over there saying that both the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party trying essentially to gather the vote bank. But I'm going to go back on the ground to Piyush Auri also on this one. Now, Piyush, we haven't really seen the end of this, have we? Because the sparring between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party is likely to continue now. Day before yesterday when we had Arvind Kejriwal come out and do a press conference thereafter, of course, we did see the BJP come out and retort to it sharply. So any reactions, apart from the ones that we've been getting on this?
So one thing is certain, whenever there is Aam Aadmi Party involved, you can definitely expect the political battle to be acrimonious, bitter and aggressive. And for long we have been seeing very bitter campaigns between the Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. And you can expect with now Gujarat elections and even the Delhi MCD elections round the corner, this campaign is going to become even more bitter. Now, from the time Arvind Kejriwal advocated the usage of images of Goddess Lakshmi and Lord Ganesh on the Indian currency notes, there were very sharp reactions by the BJP leaders. In fact, one of the BJP leaders also went to an extent of saying that Arvind Kejriwal was an atheist, but it was because it was the compulsion of politics that made this atheist now come and express his devotion to Hindu gods.
Piyush.
So you can
Piyush, stay with us. I'm going to come back to you. But Mr. Poonawalla back on the phone line with us. You know, that audio connection was interrupted earlier. Mr. Poonawalla, you were taking us through your views of what you make of Arvind Kejriwal's move.
Arvind Kejriwal. Arvind Kejriwal says that there should be Mahalakshmi and Ganeshji on the currency notes. But the currency notes are being given only to what? Has Arvind Kejriwal given 100 crore rupees to any other religious institution? I have put out the RTI that 62 crore rupees was given by Mia Kejriwal to Waqf board to increase the salary of imams. But she could not pay 13,000 students fees, ST, OBC community students fees. Secondly, Mia Arvind Kejriwal must tell us that those who oppose Mandir and Katha, who have abused Mandir and Katha, Gopal Italia, when will we remove them from the party? Those who say Ramji, Krishnaji, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, mein Vishwas Rakhna hai, Rajendra Pal, when will we remove them from the party? And those who have mocked Swastik, Kim, those who have said that Ram Mandir nahi banna chahiye in his own party, who have laughed on Kashmiri Hindus, when will we remove them and take action on them? And third, Mia Kejriwal must give us one guarantee. Mia Kejriwal ji, please guarantee to us that this note of Ma Lakshmi and this note of Ganpati ji, which has the pictures of them, will not go in the hands of any terrorist and Athankawadi and Dangai like Tahir Hussain. It won't go in the hands of many Sisodia like corrupt people who are involved in Sharab and Gotala. It won't go to the Hawala Gotalebaz like Satyendra Jain. Will Mia Kejriwal answer these three questions?
Right, Mr. Poonawalla, thank you very much for joining us with your views. That's what the BJP is insisting, this is how they're seeing it as, essentially, as a political gimmick right ahead of the elections. I think we're going to go back to Piyush on this one. Now, Piyush, we were talking about the reactions that we've been getting from the BJP on this. And, you know, you heard Mr. Poonawalla as well, you know, going on to say that you have senior leaders of the Aam Aadmi Party, particularly Arvind Kejriwal, who's trying to woo the Hindu vote bank. But on the other side, you also have junior leaders who keep, you know, straying a bit from the party line.
So yes, you said it very rightly that for long Arvind Kejriwal has been wooing the Hindu voters. He has been taking a Hindutva stand, but there are several leaders within his party who have been straying away from the Hindu line and have made comments or have been involved in activities which has indeed made Arvind Kejriwal look as if he's anti-Hindu. And the most prominent, the most evident being that of Rajendra Pal Gautam, who had attended a Buddhist convocation ceremony in which there were anti-Hindu statements. Now, he did resign, but ultimately there was no action that was being initiated against him. So this resulted in a lot of criticism being made on Arvind Kejriwal of his anti-Hindu politics. In addition to that, he also faced a lot of ire from people after he took a very strict stance of prohibiting crackers in Delhi, which often during this time gets engulfed in very poor air quality. So in order to correct these issues, did he make this proposal of issuing and making a statement of allowing goddesses Lakshmi and images of God Ganesh to be placed on Indian currency notes? Very interesting to see.
Absolutely. Piyush Ori reporting on this. Thank you very much for joining us. So that is the letter that's been written by Arvind Kejriwal to the Prime Minister asking for images of Hindu deities on currency notes. The NHRC on Thursday issued a notice to the Rajasthan government over reports that girls are being auctioned off on stamp paper in half a dozen districts of the state, and the refusal thereof is resulting in either rape of their mothers to settle financial scores on diktats of caste panchayats. Now, the National Human Rights Commission has taken up suo motu cognizance of the media report, according to a statement that has been issued by the NHRC. What we understand is that the NHRC, in fact, has given the state's DGP as well as the Chief Secretary about 4 weeks to respond to this.
Entire country and humanity has taken place in Rajasthan's Bhilwara, where young girls of 8 to 18 years are being sold on stamp paper, exploited, sexually assaulted, and even their mothers are sexually assaulted if they cannot repay the loans. The NHRC has taken cognizance on this and has demanded a strict action and report from the Gehlot government. Today, Rajasthan under Mr. Gehlot has become #1 in rapes and women atrocities. And when these incidents come to the fore, Rajasthan Chief Minister says most of them are fake. He says that rape laws need not be stringent because that is why the rapes take place. Mr. Shantilal Dhariwal, a minister, says that rapes will happen because it is a mardon ka pradesh. But Priyanka Vadra, who is very vocal and says ladki hu lad sakti hu, has nothing to say when in Rajasthan women are saying ladki hu to kya bach sakti hu. She goes and across the entire country, but she never comes to Rajasthan. Will she go and stand with the victims of Bhilwara? Will she go and demand justice for them? Will she ask for action against the Chief Minister and the state government who have been in any way ignorant and have not taken strong action against rapists for a very long time, who have not taken action to ensure women protection for the last 3.5 years? Today, Priyanka Vadra must also tell us that when incidents take place in Jharkhand, when incident takes place in Rajasthan, when incident takes place in Chhattisgarh, why does she eloquently remain silent on these issues? Is women atrocities only a selective political issue for her?
Right now, going back to the other big story that we are tracking this morning, of course, Arvind Kejriwal, the Delhi Chief Minister and the convener of the Aam Aadmi Party, has written to the Prime Minister asking for the putting of images of the Hindu deities Lakshmi and Ganesh on currency notes. In that letter, of course, he goes on to state that I request you to do so because of the worsening state of the Indian economy, and also saying that if other countries can do it, why can't we? So really taking a pot shot at the government also. Piyush is joining us on this. Piyush, now this seems to be a sideways attack on the government as well, and Arvind Kejriwal over there talking about the worsening economic situation. He's talked in the past of, the fact that there are fewer jobs that are there for, youngsters across the country. So this particularly, this letter, a large part of it actually focuses on that aspect as well.
So you aptly put it. Through this letter, Arvind Kejriwal has tried to put the BJP government also into the spot. First, he has tried to emphasize on the worsening economic condition. Mind you, Nupur, that unlike several other countries' currencies, our rupee also right now is going down to dollar. It is not going down to an extent which other countries are facing, but nevertheless, it is weakening. So yes, Arvind Kejriwal has mentioned this point. Second thing is that he's again tried to revive the Hindutva image for which the BJP government often has been portrayed as. So what he's trying to now say through this letter is that first he's trying to mention the worsening economic condition of a country, and he's trying to make the government accountable for it. And second, he's trying to make the BJP-led government to openly express its Hindutva philosophy, Hindu ideology, by making the goddesses Lakshmi and god Ganesh being placed on the Indian currency notes. So will this political point made by Arvind Kejriwal score in some points? It is going to be interesting to see as we go down in the days to come.
Oh yes, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how also Arvind Kejriwal takes this forward, because we haven't really seen in the past essentially leaving issues. He does pick them up and he goes on with them the whole hog. So in that sense, what are you hearing from your sources within the Aam Aadmi Party? How are they intending All right, to go forward, I'm going to come back to you on that one, Piyush. Ms. Shazia Ilmi from the BJP also joining us right now. Ms. Ilmi, good morning. Ms. Ilmi, day before yesterday, of course, Arvind Kejriwal had done this huge press conference where he spoke about this, and today, of course, he's followed it up with a letter. But, not just stopping at asking for pictures of deities, he also goes on to essentially say that he's asking for this because he believes that the Indian economy is in a bad state and the rupee is sliding against the dollar. Though many would argue that that's not true. But how do you see this?
Well, I must say that these are matters of faith and religious devotion, and using them for political gain is a matter of great, not just means trivializing the issue, but also, it's like making fun of people's faith and using it just for the elections. It goes on to say that Kejriwal actually is very nervous, and all that he did so far was to give the impression that he is actually all the corruption and the greed in the party that people know about, all the scams. He's just covering up the entire matter, and nothing seems to be happening in Gujarat. So and that's why he's making yet another desperate attempt to sensationalize the issue and to actually invoke gods and goddesses to help him in his political career. But I think this leads to such a crisis of credibility once again for Mr. Kejriwal, because he plays the Christian card in Goa, he uses the Khalistani support in Punjab for his own gains. When he goes to constituencies like Okhla, he talks about the Patla House encounter and makes it out to be like that it was actually a setup and it was a fake encounter. And now when he's fighting in Gujarat, he makes it out to be, he uses the Hindu card and thereby plays with the emotions and related to faith. And I think that's really derogatory, and it's really sad that he's reached this level. So I can only feel very sorry for him.
Right, Shazia Ilmi from the BJP. Thank you very much for speaking to us. The BJP, of course, thinks that this is not just a poll tactic, it's also a diversionary tactic that the Aam Aadmi Party seems to be employing to get itself out of those various corruption issues that it's facing. Thank you very much, Piyush, to you as well for joining us on this. You're watching Republic TV. We will, of course, be bringing you live coverage from the 2611 site as there is going to be a big meeting that will be held over there today. Stay with us.
Style? For me, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance. Crisp, clean, classic, subtle brilliance. You don't know what it is that catches your eye, but it does, The cut, the color, the lines. There's something in the essence of the evergreen. You feel special, selected. That's when I know I found the right fit, when I feel selected.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. I wish to speak to you tonight about a very serious matter, about what has emerged as the biggest fake news story in the world. The biggest fake news story ever globally. And I'm embarrassed to say that this fake news story has come from India. And it has come from what is described by many as a propaganda site called The Wire. What The Wire has done is a shame in the history of journalism. And as much as the Lutyens media and its ecosystem may try and cover it up and try not to talk about it, I think we must. Not because one propaganda site has published this fake news, but because of the fraud and fabrication that has accompanied this fake news. You can get a story wrong, yes you can. And then you can run a corrigendum, a clarification, but you cannot do some things. You cannot fabricate. and then produce fabrications after fabrications after fabrications and insist that all these fabrications and falsehoods are the truth, which in this case the wire has done. You cannot. If you have an ounce of ethics.
Prime Minister Modi is to address the Chintan Shivir of Home Ministers of States today via video conferencing. In a big move, Elon Musk completes Twitter's takeover, sacks top Twitter officials, including the CEO Parag Agrawal. Russian President Vladimir Putin hails India's foreign policy, says a lot has been done under the Modi government. Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal writes to the Prime Minister, requests Lakshmi and Ganesh pictures on Indian currency notes. And the NHRC issues a notice to the Rajasthan government over alleged auctioning off of girls to settle financial disputes. Good morning and thank you very much for staying with us on Republic TV. This is Live and Breaking. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Now going on to the big story that we are tracking this morning. In the first such meeting of the UNSC CTC, that's the Counter-Terrorism Council in India, since its establishment in 2001, India is hosting a special meeting of the UN Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee, which will discuss overarching theme of countering the use of new and emerging technologies for terrorist purposes. As India sends a message to China and Pakistan, the UN is holding a symbolic meeting. Niranjan Narayan-Swamy, our executive editor, is joining us live from the 2611 Memorial site. In fact, he will be with us shortly. Now, this, of course, is being seen as an extremely important meeting that will take place at the 2611 Memorial site. Now, the Counter-Terrorism Committee, of course, meeting in India is part of the government's push in the last 2 months at the UNSC to keep its focus firmly on terror and terror financing. Now, ambassadors of all countries in the UN Security Council will be attending that memorial for victims of the 2611 terror attacks today. This is part of the special session of the Counter-Terrorism Committee that takes place at the Taj Palace Hotel in Mumbai today. It was, of course, one of the sites of the terrible attacks of 2008. Now, just to give our viewers a bit about what we are expecting in the ceremony today. The ceremony will be including a joint wreath laying as well as separate floral tributes by United Nations officials and reps of all countries on the Security Council. This, of course, also, in a sense, stresses the significance of China's ambassador being part of the event, given its record of placing holds on listings of the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists at the UNSC in the past 4 months. Now, just to tell our viewers a bit about that aspect of it, China, of course, has continuously put on hold India and the United States of America's efforts to put certain terrorist organizations and their backers on the global designated terror list. Now, coming back now to what we are expecting today in terms of what happens at that meeting that is going to be taking place. This, of course, is being looked upon as very important, and as India has been continuously trying to push that terror as well as terror financing is something that needs to be tackled with very, very affirmatively. We have seen our various officials at the UN make that point time and again at various conferences, saying that it's not just terror that needs to be dealt with, but also terror financing that needs to be dealt with. So today, of course, is being seen as an effort to essentially propagate that. Now, the Counter-Terrorism Committee is meeting in India this week as well, and they will hopefully keep the focus on terror. Now, just to give our viewers a bit of a sense of what we're expecting today at that event that takes place, ambassadors of all countries in the UN Security Council will be attending a memorial for victims of 2611 terror attacks in Mumbai today as part of the special session of the Counter-Terrorism Committee at the Taj Palace Hotel.
समस्या, घुसपैठ की समस्या, ड्रोन के माध्यम से हथियारों और नारकोटिक्स की तस्करी हो और हमारी सीमाओं की फिजिकल सुरक्षा की बात हो। जब तक पूरे देश की पुलिस और केंद्र की एजेंसियों का ये सभी समस्याओं के प्रति रिस्पॉन्ड एक समान नहीं होता, इस समस्याओं के प्रति लड़ने की हमारी रणनीति एक नहीं होती, एक दिशा में एक साथ होकर सभी राज्य आगे नहीं बढ़ते हैं, तो उनका सामना नामुमकिन है। उस दृष्टि से आपका टीम इंडिया का विचार और चिंतन शिविर का आपका मार्गदर्शन गृह विभाग का जहां तक सवाल है सबसे उपयुक्त और प्रासंगिक है। यहां पर कल हमने राज्यों के लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को संभालने की रोज बरोज की आपाधापी में कई महत्वपूर्ण चीजें छूट जाती हैं, इस पर हमने ध्यान दिलाने का और सभी मुख्यमंत्री गृह मंत्रियों का ध्यान आकर्षित करने का प्रयास किया है। जैसे होमगार्ड और सिविल डिफेंस, नागरिकों को आंतरिक सुरक्षा के साथ जोड़ना और उनके मन में एक बोध खड़ा करने के लिए ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रक्रिया है, मगर वो आज कई सालों से वैसे ही पड़ी है जो सर्कुलर से होती है। फायर ब्रिगेड, इंडस्ट्रियल सिक्योरिटी फोर्स, जन्म और मृत्यु के पंजीकरण का डिजिटल होना, आईपीएस डेप्यूटेशन पर राज्यों की ओर से भेजे नहीं जा सकते हैं। भारत सरकार की सभी योजनाओं में खर्च अनुपात में गृह विभाग में राज्यों ने बहुत कम किया है। इस प्रकार की कई समस्याओं पर कल हमने यहाँ पर चर्चा की है। इसके लिए एक प्रेजेंटेशन भी रखा गया था और सभी मुख्यमंत्री गृह मंत्रियों का ध्यान आकर्षित करने की हमने प्रयास भी किया है। और इसके साथ साथ लगभग सभी राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री और गृह मंत्रियों ने कल बात रखी है। बचे हुए सारे गृह मंत्री आज भी बात रखेंगे, जिसमें राज्यों की बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस को साझा करने का भी काम हुआ है, जिसे एक राज्य के अच्छे प्रयोग को देश भर के राज्य स्वीकार कर सके। राज्यों ने अपनी कुछ तकलीफें भी यहाँ मंच पर रखी हैं, जिसका समाधान भारत सरकार के सहयोग से वो चाहते हैं। केंद्र से उनकी जो अपेक्षा है उसको भी मंच पर रखने का काम हुआ है और कुछ अच्छे सुझाव भी आए हैं। मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं कि हम सब मिलकर ये सारी समस्याओं के समाधान की ओर एक वाक्यता के साथ आगे बढ़ेंगे। आज इस विशेष सत्र के उपरांत 4 सत्र और होंगे, जिसमें साइबर अपराध, नारकोटिक्स, कन्विक्शन रेशियो बढ़ाना, दोष सिद्धि का प्रमाण बढ़ाना और सीमा सुरक्षा का प्रबंधन, ये 4 विषयों पर विशद चर्चा होने वाली है। और इसके साथ साथ ये पूरे चिंतन शिविर में 2 दिन में आपने आजादी की जब शताब्दी मनाई जाएगी, तब भारत सरकार के जो लक्ष्य निर्धारित किए हैं, इसमें गृह मंत्रालय के लक्ष्यों को भी हमने राज्यों के साथ साझा किया है। और 2047 में जब देश आजादी की शताब्दी मना रहा होगा, तब देश की आंतरिक सुरक्षा और सीमा सुरक्षा दोनों क्षेत्रों में कहां तक किस लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए समयबद्ध कार्यक्रम हमारा क्या होगा, इसकी भी आज सबको जानकारी मिलेगी। प्रधानमंत्री महोदय, हम सब बहुत आतुर है आपका मार्गदर्शन इस विषय पर प्राप्त करने के लिए, और आपने हमारे निमंत्रण को स्वीकार कर हम सबको बहुत आनंदित और उत्साहित किया है। अतः पूरे सदन की ओर से मैं विनम्र निवेदन करूंगा कि आप देश के सभी मुख्यमंत्री, गृह मंत्री और सारे सुरक्षा के साथ जुड़े हुए एजेंसी के प्रमुख और राज्यों के अधिकारियों का मार्गदर्शन करें और चिंतन शिविर का विशेष सत्र को आप संबोधित करें। धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार। केंद्रीय मंत्रिमंडल के मेरे सहयोगी श्री अमित शाह, अलग अलग राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्रीगण, गृह मंत्री जी, राज्यों के पुलिस महानिदेशक, गृह मंत्रालय के वरिष्ठ पदाधिकारीगण, अन्य सभी महानुभाव, देवी और सज्जनों, आजकल देश में उत्सव का माहौल है। ओणम, ईद, दशहरा, दुर्गा पूजा, दीपावली सहित अनेक उत्सव शांति और सौहार्द के साथ देशवासियों ने मनाए हैं। अभी छठ पूजा समेत कई अन्य त्योहार भी हैं। विभिन्न चुनौतियों के बीच इन त्योहारों में देश की एकता का सशक्त होना आपकी तैयारियों का भी प्रतिबिंब है। संविधान में भले कानून और व्यवस्था राज्यों का दायित्व है, लेकिन ये देश की एकता अखंडता के साथ भी उतने ही जुड़े हुए हैं। सूरजकुंड में हो रहा गृह मंत्रियों का ये चिंतन शिविर कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म का भी एक उत्तम उदाहरण है। हर एक राज्य एक दूसरे से सीखें, एक दूसरे से प्रेरणा लें, देश की बेहतरी के लिए मिलजुल करके काम करें। ये संविधान की भी भावना है और देशवासियों के प्रति हमारा दायित्व भी है। साथियों, आजादी का अमृत काल हमारे सामने है। आने वाले 25 साल देश में एक अमृत पीढ़ी के निर्माण के हैं। ये अमृत पीढ़ी पंच प्राणों के संकल्पों को धारण करके निर्मित होगी। विकसित भारत का निर्माण, गुलामी की हर सोच से मुक्ति, विरासत पर गर्व, एकता और एकजुटता और सबसे प्रमुख बात नागरिक कर्तव्य, इन पंच प्राणों का महत्व आप सभी भली भांति जानते हैं, समझते हैं। ये एक विराट संकल्प है जिसको सिर्फ और सिर्फ सबका प्रयास से ही सिद्ध किया जा सकता है। तरीके अपने अपने हो सकते हैं, रास्ते, प्रायोरिटी अलग अलग हो सकती हैं, लेकिन ये पंच प्राण देश के हर राज्य में हमारी गवर्नेंस की प्रेरणा होनी चाहिए। जब ये सुशासन के मूल में होंगे तो भारत के सामर्थ्य का विराट विस्तार होगा। जब देश का सामर्थ्य बढ़ेगा तो देश के हर नागरिक, हर परिवार का सामर्थ्य बढ़ेगा। यही तो सुशासन है जिसका लाभ देश के हर राज्य को समाज की आखिरी पंक्ति में खड़े व्यक्ति तक पहुंचाना है। इसमें आप सभी की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है। साथियों, यहां आप में से अधिकतर या तो राज्य को नेतृत्व दे रहे हैं या फिर सीधे सीधे कानून व्यवस्था की जिम्मेदारी निभा रहे हैं। कानून व्यवस्था का सीधा संबंध राज्य के विकास से है। इसलिए राज्यों में विकास के लिए अनुकूल वातावरण बनाने में आप सभी के निर्णय और नीतियां और आपकी रीति ये बहुत अहम है। साथियों, कानून व्यवस्था के पूरे तंत्र का विश्वसनीय होना जनता के बीच उनका परसेप्शन क्या है, ये भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है। आपने देखा है कि जब भी कोई नेचुरल कैलेमिटी होती है, प्राकृतिक आपदा होती है, तो इन दिनों एनडीआरएफ की, एसडीआरएफ की एक पहचान बनी हुई है। उनका यूनिफॉर्म, उस संकट के समय पहले पहुंच जाना, और इसके कारण देशवासियों के मन में इनके प्रति एक विश्वास बना है कि भाई ये आए हैं, चलिए संभल जाएगा, ये जो कह रहे हैं मानना चाहिए, इनकी बातें अगर स्वीकार करेंगे तो हमारा नुकसान कम होगा। और आप देखिए एनडीआरएफ में है कौन भाई, एसडीआरएफ में है कौन, आप ही के सब साथी हैं, सुरक्षा बलों के जवान ही हैं, लेकिन समाज में उनके प्रति बड़ी श्रद्धा बन गई है। आपदा के समय में जैसे ही एनडीआरएफ, एसडीआरएफ की टीम पहुंचती है, वैसे ही लोगों को संतोष होने लगता है कि अब एक्सपर्ट टीम पहुंच गई है, अब से अपना काम कर लेंगे। साथियों, अपराध वाली किसी भी जगह पर जैसे ही पुलिस पहुंचती है, लोगों में ये भाव आता है कि सरकार पहुंच गई। कोरोना काल में भी हमने देखा है कि किस तरह पुलिस की साख बेहतर हुई थी। पुलिस के लोग जरूरतमंदों की मदद कर रहे थे, जरूरी संसाधन जुटा रहे थे, अपने जिंदगी को दांव पे लगा रहे थे, यानी कर्तव्य परायणता में कोई कमी नहीं है। जरूरत अच्छा परसेप्शन बनाए रखने की भी है। इसके लिए पुलिस बल को प्रेरित करना, उसके लिए प्लान करना, हर छोटी मोटी चीजों पर लगातार मार्गदर्शन करते रहना, कुछ गलत होता है तो रोकना, ये हमारी एक जीवंत प्रक्रिया होनी चाहिए, ऊपर से नीचे तक हर पल होनी चाहिए। साथियों, हमें एक बात और समझनी होगी, अब कानून व्यवस्था किसी एक राज्य के दायरे में सिमटी रहने वाली व्यवस्था नहीं रह गई है। अब अपराध इंटरस्टेट और इंटरनेशनल हो रहे हैं, यानी टेक्नोलॉजी की मदद से एक राज्य में बैठे अपराधी दूसरे राज्य में भयंकर अपराध करने की ताकत रखते हैं। देश की सीमा से बाहर बैठे अपराधी भी टेक्नोलॉजी का जमकर गलत इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। इसलिए हर राज्य की एजेंसियों का आपस में तालमेल, केंद्र और राज्य की एजेंसियों का आपस में तालमेल, ये बहुत जरूरी है। और इसीलिए आपको मालूम होगा, मैंने डीजीपी कॉन्फ्रेंस में कहा था कि 2 एडजॉइनिंग स्टेट होते हैं, उसके जो एडजॉइनिंग डिस्ट्रिक्ट होते हैं, उन्होंने पीरियोडिकली बैठ करके दोनों राज्यों के उन दोनों जिलों की समस्याओं का संकलन करना चाहिए, साथ मिलकर काम करना चाहिए, उसी में से ताकत बनेगी। कई बार केंद्रीय एजेंसियों को कई राज्यों में एक साथ जांच करनी पड़ती है, दूसरे देशों में भी जाना पड़ता है। इसलिए हर राज्य का दायित्व है कि चाहे राज्य की एजेंसी हो, चाहे केंद्र की एजेंसी हो, या संबंधित कहीं किसी और राज्य से संपर्क आता है, सभी एजेंसियों को एक दूसरे को पूरा सहयोग देना चाहिए। कोई बड़ा है, कोई छोटा है, किसका अधिकार है, उसी में कभी कभी तो हम देखते हैं एक आध एफआईआर रजिस्टर नहीं हुई, क्यों नहीं हुई, तो बोले ये तय नहीं हो रहा है कि वो जो जगह है वो इस थाने में पड़ती है, उस थाने में पड़ती है। ये जो चीजें हैं वो सिर्फ पुलिस थाने तक नहीं है, राज्यों के बीच भी हो जाती हैं, केंद्र और राज्य के बीच में हो जाती हैं, भारत और विदेश की व्यवस्थाओं के साथ हो जाती हैं। इसलिए हमारी एफिशिएंसी के लिए, हमारे आउटकम के लिए, सामान्य नागरिक को सुरक्षा देने के लिए हमारे बीच में तालमेल, संकलन, सहयोग बहुत अनिवार्य है। और इसके लिए जितना संकलन बढ़ेगा, आपके राज्य की भी ताकत बढ़ने वाली है। साथियों, साइबर क्राइम हो या फिर ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी का हथियारों और ड्रग्स तस्करी में उपयोग, इनके लिए हमें नई टेक्नोलॉजी पर काम करते रहना होगा। अब देखिए, हम 5G के युग में घुस गए हैं। तेजी से 5G पहुंचने वाला है। अब 5G के जितने लाभ है, इतनी ही जागरूकता भी जरूरी रहेगी। 5G से फेशियल रिकग्निशन टेक्नोलॉजी, ऑटोमेटिक नंबर प्लेट रिकग्निशन टेक्नोलॉजी, ड्रोन और सीसीटीवी जैसी टेक्नोलॉजी, परफॉर्मेंस में ये कई गुना सुधार होने वाला है। लेकिन हम जितनी तेजी से आगे बढ़ेंगे, जो क्राइम करने वाला वर्ल्ड है, उसका भी ग्लोबलाइजेशन हो चुका है, वो इंटरस्टेट हो चुका है, वो भी टेक्नोलॉजी में फॉरवर्ड हो चुके हैं। मतलब हमें उनसे 10 कदम आगे जाना होगा। हमें हमारी कानून व्यवस्था को भी स्मार्ट बनाना, इसके लिए बहुत ही आग्रह से काम करना पड़ेगा। साथियों, मेरा आग्रह ये भी है कि टेक्नोलॉजी को कृपा करके बजट के तराजू से न तोले। और मेरा सभी आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्रियों से, सभी आदरणीय गृह मंत्री जियों से इस विषय में एक टीम बना करके दुनिया में क्रिमिनल वर्ल्ड किस टेक्नोलॉजी में आगे बढ़ रहा है, उपलब्ध टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे लोगों को कैसे सुरक्षा दे सकती है, इस पर गंभीरता से सोचना चाहिए। और इसमें जो बजट जाएगा, वो बाकी सैकड़ों खर्चों को बचाने का कारण बन जाएगा। और इसलिए टेक्नोलॉजी का बेहतर इस्तेमाल पूरे पुलिस तंत्र को तो मजबूत करता ही करता है, सामान्य मानवीय को सुरक्षा देने का एक विश्वास नीचे तक हम पहुंचा पा सकते हैं। टेक्नोलॉजी क्राइम प्रिवेंशन में भी मदद करती है और क्राइम डिटेक्शन में भी, क्राइम इन्वेस्टिगेशन में भी बहुत काम आती है। आज देखिए, कितने ही अपराधी सीसीटीवी की वजह से पकड़े जा रहे हैं। स्मार्ट सिटी अभियान के तहत शहरों में बनाए गए आधुनिक कमांड एंड कंट्रोल सिस्टम से भी बहुत मदद मिल रही है। साथियों, इस प्रकार की नई टेक्नोलॉजी के विकास के लिए केंद्र सरकार ने पुलिस टेक्नोलॉजी मिशन भी शुरू किया है। अनेक राज्य भी इसमें अपने स्तर पर काम कर रहे हैं। लेकिन यह अनुभव आ रहा है कि हमारे अलग अलग प्रयोग होने के कारण हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी एक दूसरे के साथ बात नहीं करती है और इसलिए हमारी एनर्जी वेस्ट होती है। वो जो भी मटेरियल है वो उस राज्य तक सीमित रहता है। हमें कॉमन प्लेटफॉर्म के विषय में बड़ा मन रख करके सोचना ही पड़ेगा। किसी एक के पास बहुत उत्तम चीज है तो ये मान करके न बैठे कि मेरे पास है, मैं तो किसी को दूंगा नहीं, मैं अपनी ताकत बनाए रखूंगा। एक समय आएगा, कितनी उत्तम टेक्नोलॉजी होगी और लोगों के सहयोग में नहीं होगी तो स्टैंड अलोन निकम्मी हो जाएगी। और इसलिए टेक्नोलॉजी में भारत के संदर्भ में सोचना, हमारी सभी बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस, बेस्ट इनोवेशन कॉमन लिंक वाले ही होने चाहिए, इंटर ऑपरेबल होने चाहिए, एक दूसरे के साथ लगातार सरलता से बात कर सके, ये व्यवस्थाएं अनिवार्य हैं। साथियों, आज फॉरेंसिक साइंस का महत्व बढ़ रहा है और वो सिर्फ पुलिस महकमे के तक सीमित नहीं है जी। लीगल फर्टेनिटी को फॉरेंसिक साइंस समझना पड़ेगा, जुडिशरी को फॉरेंसिक साइंस समझना पड़ेगा, इवन हॉस्पिटल को भी फॉरेंसिक साइंस समझना पड़ेगा। इन सबके प्रयत्न से ही फॉरेंसिक साइंस का उपयोग क्राइम और क्रिमिनल को सजा दिलाने में बहुत काम आ सकता है। अकेला पुलिस के पास फॉरेंसिक साइंस की कुछ व्यवस्थाएं इनफ नहीं होगा, और इसलिए हर राज्य में हमें संकलित और संतुलित व्यवस्था, हर राज्य को गांधीनगर स्थित नेशनल फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी की, और उसकी क्षमता आज दुनिया के 60-70 देश फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी का लाभ ले रहे हैं। हमारे राज्यों ने भी बढ़ चढ़ करके लाभ लेना चाहिए। ये पूरी तरह फ्यूचरिस्टिक टेक्नोलॉजी ड्रिवन व्यवस्था है। ह्यूमन रिसोर्स डेवलपमेंट का भी वहां काम है, नए नए टेक्नोलॉजी टूल बनाने का भी काम है, और केस, बड़े कठिन केसेस को सुलझाने में भी वो लैब काम आ रही है। मैं समझता हूं कि इस व्यवस्था का उपयोग सभी राज्य सक्रियता से कैसे करें। साथियों, कानून व्यवस्था को बना रखना एक 24/7 वाला काम है, लेकिन किसी भी काम में यह भी आवश्यक है कि हम निरंतर प्रक्रियाओं में सुधार करते चले, उन्हें आधुनिक बनाते चले। बीते वर्षों में भारत सरकार के स्तर पर कानून व्यवस्था से जुड़े रिफॉर्म्स हुए हैं। उन्होंने पूरे देश में शांति का वातावरण बनाने में मदद की है। आप भी जानते हैं कि भारत की विविधता, भारत की विशालता की वजह से हमारे लॉ एनफोर्समेंट सिस्टम पर कितना दबाव होता है। इसलिए बहुत जरूरी है कि हमारा ये सिस्टम सही दिशा में ऊर्जा लगाएं, वरना हमने देखा है कि कितने ही अनावश्यक केसों में छोटी छोटी गलतियों की जांच में ही पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट की ऊर्जा चली जाती है। इसलिए हमने व्यापार कारोबार से जुड़े अनेकों प्रावधानों को अब डीक्रिमिनलाइज कर दिया है, उन्हें अपराध की श्रेणी से बाहर निकाल दिया है। 1,500 से ज्यादा पुराने कानूनों को समाप्त करके भविष्य का बहुत बड़ा बोझ कम किया गया है। मैं तो राज्यों से भी आग्रह करता हूं, आप भी अपने यहां कानूनों को इवेल्युएट कीजिए। आजादी के पहले के जितने कानून हैं इनको वर्तमान तारीखों के साथ बदलाव लाइए। हर कानून में क्रिमिनल एंगल और निर्दोष नागरिकों को परेशानी, वो वक्त से चला गया है जी। साथियों, सरकार को अब जैसे स्वामित्व योजना, ये स्वामित्व योजना के तहत देश के गांवों में ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड वितरित कर रहे हैं। वो भी जमीन से जुड़े विवादों को कम करेंगे, झगड़े खत्म होंगे गांव के। वरना गांव की समस्या ज्यादातर 1 फुट जमीन इसने ले ली, उसी में से बड़े बड़े झगड़े हो जाते हैं। साथियों, परोक्ष और अपरोक्ष रूप से किए गए ऐसे अनेक प्रयासों से लॉ एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसियों को भी अपनी प्राथमिकता तय करने में बहुत मदद मिली है। लेकिन हमने जब पूरे कैनवास पर चीजों को रख करके अपनी स्ट्रेटेजी में बदलाव नहीं करेंगे, 20, 30, 50 साल पुरानी पद्धतियों से चलेंगे, तो शायद इन चीजों का फायदा नहीं मिलेगा। बीते वर्षों में केंद्र सरकार द्वारा बनाए गए कानूनों ने भी कानून व्यवस्था को मजबूत किया है। आतंकवाद हो, हवाला नेटवर्क हो, भ्रष्टाचार हो, इस पर आज देश में अभूतपूर्व शक्ति दिखाई जा रही है। लोगों में विश्वास पनपने लगा है। यूएपीए जैसे कानूनों ने आतंकवाद के खिलाफ एक निर्णायक लड़ाई में व्यवस्थाओं को ताकत दी है। यानी एक तरफ हम देश के लॉ एनफोर्समेंट सिस्टम का उसकी क्षमता बढ़ा रहे हैं, तो दूसरी तरफ उन पर अनावश्यक बोझ को भी हटा सके। साथियों, एक और विषय हमारे देश की पुलिस के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। जैसे आज देश में वन नेशन वन राशन कार्ड की व्यवस्था बनी है, वन नेशन वन मोबिलिटी कार्ड की व्यवस्था हो रही है, वन नेशन वन ग्रिड बना है, वन नेशन वन साइन लैंग्वेज बनी है, वैसे ही पुलिस की वर्दी को भी लेकर भी ऐसी कोई अप्रोच अपनाई जा सकती है। क्या हमारे राज्य मिल बैठ करके, इससे बहुत लाभ होंगे। एक तो क्वालिटी मटेरियल प्रोडक्ट होगा, क्योंकि मास स्केल पर होगा। कैप होगी तो करोड़ों में कैप की जरूरत पड़ेगी, बेल्ट चाहिए तो करोड़ों में चाहिएगा। और देश का कोई भी नागरिक कहीं पर भी जाएगा, देखते ही उसको पता चले हाँ ये पुलिस वाला है। अब जैसे पोस्ट ऑफिस का डिब्बा, हिंदुस्तान में कोई पढ़ा लिखा अनपढ़ आदमी को मालूम है ये पोस्ट का डिब्बा है, यहां ना कागज डाला वह पहुंचता है। एक पहचान होती है। हमारे लिए भी आवश्यक है कि हमारे देश के पुलिस बेड़े में सब सोचे, साथ मिलकर के सोचे, कोई किसी पर थोपने की जरूरत नहीं है। एक इवॉल्व करे, आप देखिए बहुत बड़ा लाभ होगा और एक दूसरे की ताकत में इजाफा होगा। वन नेशन वन पुलिस यूनिफॉर्म, हाँ उस राज्य का एक टैग हो सकता है, उस राज्य का एक नंबर हो सकता है, लेकिन पहचान कॉमन बने, इस पर सोचा। मैं एक विचार के रूप में रख रहा हूं, न मैं कहीं आपसे आग्रह भी करता हूं, मैं सिर्फ एक विचार रखता हूं और इस विचार पे चर्चा कीजिए। कभी ठीक लगे, 5 साल 50 साल 100 साल के बाद भी उपयोगी लगेगा तो जरूर देखिए। उसी प्रकार से अलग अलग प्रकार की पुलिस के नए नए विभाग शुरू हुए हैं, एक्सपर्टाइज आई है। अब हम देखिए, दुनिया में टूरिज्म का बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है। भारत में टूरिज्म की संभावना है बहुत बढ़ रही है। विश्व से बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में टूरिस्टों का भारत में आने का प्रवाह बढ़ना ही बढ़ना है। आज दुनिया में कई देश जो टूरिज्म के क्षेत्र में बहुत आगे हैं, वहां टूरिज्म के लिए काम करने वाली पुलिस बनाई जाती है, उनकी ट्रेनिंग अलग होती है, उनको लैंग्वेजेस भी सिखाई जाती है, उनके बिहेवियर पूरी तरह चेंज होता है। और यात्रियों को भी, विदेश के टूरिस्टों को भी पता होता कि भाई ये मदद करने के लिए पुलिस की व्यवस्था है। और वो पुलिस होने के कारण वो पुलिस एनफोर्समेंट जो इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं उससे भी बड़े आसानी से संकलन कर पाता है। कभी न कभी हमें हमारे देश में इस विधा की एक्सपर्टाइज को डेवलप करना ही पड़ेगा, ताकि भारत में ये जो और टूरिज्म विश्व भर से आने वाला आदमी, एक पूंजी निवेश के लिए आने वाला और टूरिस्ट में आने वाले में बहुत फर्क है। टूरिस्ट तुरंत आपका एम्बेसडर बन जाता है, अच्छी चीज भी वही दुनिया में ले जाएगा, बुरी चीज भी वही दुनिया में ले जाएगा। पूंजी निवेश जो करता है उसको इस काम में कई समय लग जाता है अगर गलत हो गया तो, लेकिन टूरिस्ट तो 2 दिन में ही खबर पहुंचा देता है, यार भाई यहां तो ये हाल है। और इसलिए आज भारत में भी मिडिल क्लास का बल कितना बढ़ रहा है, टूरिज्म को लेकर के बहुत बदलाव आ रहा है। अब टूरिज्म और ट्रैफिक नई समस्या आ रही है। अब हम एडवांस में नहीं सोचेंगे, ऑल्टरनेट नहीं सोचेंगे, तो वही टूरिज्म के हमारे सेंटर तो कोई बदलने वाले नहीं है। हम कहें कि नहीं अब शिमला नहीं वहां जाइए, तो ये तो होने शिमला, जिसको जाना है शिमला ही जाएगा, नैनीताल जाना है वो नैनीताल ही जाएगा, श्रीनगर जाना है वो श्रीनगर जाएगा, गुलबर्ग जाना है वो गुलबर्ग जाएगा। हमें व्यवस्थाओं को विकसित करना होगा। साथियों, हमने देखा है कोरोना के समय में जब पुलिस के लोग अपने क्षेत्र के लोगों को फोन करके पूछते थे, और खास करके मैंने देखा है कुछ शहरों में सीनियर सिटीजन के लिए पुलिस में जो बड़ी आयु के लोग हैं, जिनसे अब ज्यादा मजदूरी करवाना, उनके साथ भी अत्याचार है, उन्होंने स्वेच्छा से ऐसे काम लिए हैं। और वे सीनियर सिटीजन्स को लगातार पूछते हैं ठीक होना, कहीं बाहर तो जाने वाले नहीं होना, घर बंद करके जाने वाले नहीं होना। इसके कारण नागरिकों का जो कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ता है वो एक प्रकार से आपकी ताकत बन जाता है। इस चीज को हम जितना ज्यादा उपयोग कर सकते हैं, प्रोफेशनल वे में कर सकते हैं, और पूरी तरह जीवंतता हो, संवेदनशीलता हो। आप देखिए समाज जीवन में ये फोन आपका सप्ताह में अगर किसी सीनियर सिटीजन को जाता है, वो महीने भर दुनिया को कहता रहता है कि भाई पुलिस थाने से बिल्कुल फोन आ जाता है, हर बुधवार को पूछ लेते हैं, मेरी कोई दिक्कत है नहीं। इन चीजों की बहुत बड़ी ताकत होती है। जो परसेप्शन की लड़ाई है ना, ये आपके सारे परसेप्शन बनाने वाले लोग हैं। हमें एक और काम की तरफ बहुत सजग होने की जरूरत है जी। टेक्नोलॉजिकल इंटेलिजेंस, इसका अपने एक ताकत है, उसका उपयोग है, लेकिन हम ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस को नकार नहीं कर सकते हैं। उस विधा को पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट ने आज से 100 साल, कितनी टेक्नोलॉजी बदल जाए, 100 साल के बाद उसकी जरूरत पड़ने वाली है। उस इंस्टीट्यूट को जितनी ताकतवर बना सकते हैं बनाइए। उसमें जो सामर्थ्य है, उसकी जो नजरें हैं, वो उसकी जो बातचीत में से जो पकड़ के ले आता है, ये आपकी बहुत बड़ी ताकत होती है। और अगर दोनों क्षेत्रों में ताकत है, फिर तो आप चीजों को बहुत आसानी से कल्पना कर सकते हैं। ये संभावना है, 10 दिन के बाद ये संभावना दिखती है, ये चल रहा है, चलो हम देखते हैं, यहां कुछ लोग आते हैं जाते हैं, कुछ हो रहा है, तुरंत पता चलेगा। और मैं समझता हूं इसके कारण हमारी व्यवस्थाएं बहुत चुस्त हो जाएगी, जो 50 बार क्राइम करने वालों को सोचने के लिए मजबूर करेगी। साथियों में एक और बात भी समझनी है। आज वैश्विक स्तर पर भारत जितनी तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहा है, उतनी ही तेजी से भारत की चुनौतियां भी बढ़ने वाली है। पहले वो उपेक्षा की वृत्ति होती है, फिर उसका जरा मजाक उड़ाने की वृत्ति बनती है, फिर भी आप आगे बढ़ते हैं तो फिर थोड़ी कंपटीशन का भाव आ जाता है, प्रतिस्पर्धा आ जाती है, फिर भी आगे बढ़ते हैं तो दुश्मनी का रंग ले लेती है। विश्व की बहुत सारी ताकतें होगी जो नहीं चाहेगी कि उनके देश के संदर्भ में भारत कुछ सामर्थ्यवान बने। फलाने
All right, so that's the Prime Minister over there, of course, addressing Home Ministers. This is the Chintan Shivar that's being held on national security, coming out with various issues as well and ways and the manner in which they can be tackled. And we are now cutting across to pictures that we are getting from the first meeting of the UNSCTC that's being held in India. This is, of course, India hosting the special meeting of the United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee, which, of course, will discuss the overarching theme of countering the use of new and emerging technologies for terrorist purposes. Currently on your screens are pictures of all the countries paying homage to the 26/11 victims. I think we've got Niranjan reporting live from here right now. Niranjan, take us through what's happening, and this of course is a memorial service for the 26/11 victims.
Well, absolutely, and you know, Nupur, you as a reporter have been inside the newsrooms when 26/11 happened, and you know, we are at one of and this location has been chosen for a reason, Nupur, because about 14 years ago at this hotel, the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, we remember the carnage. We remember reporting from the Taj, looking at those pictures. We know exactly what happened here. Over 160 people were killed in the terrorist attack when 10 Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists came here to Mumbai and unleashed mayhem. And you're looking at those live pictures of the tribute. I want to go across and stay full frame to the live pictures of the tribute that is being paid to the victims of 26/11. This venue has been chosen for a reason, and is one of those rare meetings, Nupur, that is happening of the United Nations Counter-Terrorism Committee. It's happening perhaps for the first time in 7 years outside of Europe. The last time it was held outside of New York was in Spain in 2015, and they've come to India this year for a reason. And it's happening in India because India is leading the fight against terror, simply put. And this venue has been chosen. It's a two-leg event. And the first leg is here at the Taj, right behind me. This is the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, one of the locations that was targeted by Pakistani terrorists who came using boats, dinghies, and landed on the shores of Mumbai, 10 of them. One of them was caught alive. That was Ajmal Kasab, who was eventually hanged. Now, these are live pictures you're also seeing from APTN of India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. You also have the UK Foreign Secretary who's here to be a part of this meeting, Mr. Cleverly, and member nations of the UN Counter-Terrorism Committee, who are all part of this significant meeting, symbolic meeting, and its agenda is clear-cut. Agenda here is clear-cut today. They will discuss how to counter terror. 3 sub-themes: countering terrorism, exploitation of information and communication technologies, internet and social media, countering online terrorist financing and threats related to new payment technologies and fundraising methods, and threats posed by use of unmanned aerial systems or UAVs. It's happening here at a time when you had, 2 countries, namely Pakistan and China. Of course, India diplomatically has stayed away from naming China. But you've had a few days back, less than 4 or 5 days back, China blocking India's proposal to designate some of the world's most dreaded terrorists as global terrorists. For some reason, China is silently backing terrorists, indirectly supporting terror. And that's the message that even India sent out a few days back. While setting the stage for this event, you had the Indian permanent envoy to the UN saying that there are countries who are equally culpable when they try to shield terrorists and stop action being taken against terrorists. And China has tried to stop India from, and America, of course, which has been trying to help India in designating people like Sajid Mir as a global terrorist, people like Hafiz Saeed's son, Talha Saeed, as a global terrorist. The Lashkar-e-Toiba has got direct support from China. And that's why this meeting becomes all the more significant, because on one hand, you had a few minutes back, the Prime Minister and the Home Minister of India speaking about the need for India to ensure that our internal security is taken care of, and the need for each state to work together, for each stakeholder to work together to ensure that we don't have any more attacks on Indian soil, on Indian establishment, on the Indian people. And one of the world's biggest terror attacks took place here behind me. And you remember those pictures. We will have those pictures pulled out and to tell you, what we saw here in Mumbai about 14 years ago are pictures that we never want to see ever again. And that's why this meeting becomes all the more critical. The leading minds from across the world, United Nations counter-terror mechanism is meeting. It's a 2-leg meeting, the first one in Mumbai, the second in Delhi, and they've chosen specifically this location here in Mumbai, the Taj Hotel, to send a message to Pakistan that we will never forget, we will never forgive those who carried out the attacks. Hafiz Saeed is in a safe haven in Pakistan. He has not been punished. Pakistan continues to shield him. Pakistan does not have the courage to take action against people like Hafiz Saeed. Pakistan continues to free people like Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi, who was the mastermind of the terror attack. And until today, and until last year, he was released. He was taken back into jail. And just imagine, these are people who've carried out, masterminded the world's biggest terror attacks. The Lashkar-e-Toiba is getting support from a country that likes to call itself a superpower. A country like China. China openly backing, shielding terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba, and that is why this meeting is being held, and the world's biggest minds are at this meeting. And S. Jaishankar, of course, who's leading India's charge at this particular meeting, along with India's permanent representative to the UN. It's an initiative by the United Nations, part of the United Nations Security Council counter-terror initiative, and they will look at all aspects of fighting terror globally, countering terror, because the only thing that we can do is exert diplomatic pressure on terror nations like Pakistan and countries that back terror nations like Pakistan, namely China. And the stage was set earlier when India's permanent representative to the UN, Ruchira Kamboj, also said that you can't differentiate between good terror and bad terror. How many times have we heard this phrase, Nupur, good terror and bad terror? And there were times when Pakistan tried to justify justify people like Hafiz Saeed. They called him a human rights activist. They called him a Samaritan. And these are people who have unleashed terror attacks across the world, not just on Indian soil. You had the Lashkar-e-Toiba's footprint go all the way until Europe and in America. People like Sajid Mir and the entire Lashkar-e-Toiba module now stands exposed before the world, and India has taken that global role. And I think as you look at these pictures, just remember each of those victims, Nupur, of 26/11. So many people who are inside the inside this Taj Hotel behind me. People who were with their families. Our families were wiped out. Many orphans were left behind. Many fathers, mothers, employees at the Taj. And we remember each of those moments when we report from here, the scenes of the carnage, the shooting from the windows, the blasts, the fire from the domes of the Taj Hotel. And I think it's important that this event is highlighted, and Republic is leading the coverage of this event, because it's important for us to remind everyone about how India has neither forgiven nor forgotten what has happened, because the masterminds of this attack continue to enjoy their lives in Pakistan. I think Mr. Jaishankar is speaking. Let's cut across live.
Foreign Minister of the Gabonese Republic and President of the UN Security Council, heads of delegations of the UN Security Council member states, Excellencies. 14 years ago, on 26 November 2008, the city of Mumbai was witness to one of the most shocking terror attacks of our times. 140 Indian nationals and 26 citizens of 23 other countries lost their lives in a period of 4 days. In fact, this entire city was held hostage by terrorists who had entered from across the border. If much worse was averted, it was only because they ran into the collective resolve of Indian security forces, brave civilians, and the security and staff of this very Taj Hotel. All of them fought back valiantly in their own ways to ensure that the forces of evil were finally defeated. 18 members of the Indian police forces, 12 members of the Taj Hotel staff and security were martyred in the line of duty. As we pay tribute to them at this 26/11 memorial site, we salute their valor and resolve. We all recall that the victims included ordinary Mumbaikars going about their daily lives at the Chhatrapati Maharaj Terminus railway station, the patients, doctors and nursing staff at the Kama Hospital, the guests and staff of the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, of Cafe Leopold and the Oberoi Trident Hotel, the Chabad House where baby Moshe's parents were killed, and innocent bystanders on the streets. It was not just an attack on Mumbai, but an attack on the international community. Nationals of specific countries were identified before being murdered. As a result, the commitment of each and every member state of the United Nations to combat terrorism stood publicly challenged. Since then, we have endeavored to bring the masterminds and the perpetrators of this attack to justice. This task remains unfinished. Therefore, the coming together of the UNSC's Counter-Terrorism Committee to this venue is both special and significant. I thank all members of the Security Council and other member states who have joined us today in an expression of solidarity. Together, we should send out the message that the international community will never give up on holding terrorists accountable and delivering justice. 26/11 will never ever be forgotten.
S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister. In fact, let's cut back and listen in to the speeches coming in as all right, let's go back to the feed. That's the UN feed, where S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, spoke about 26/11. the biggest terror attack on Indian soil. I'm cutting back to the live feed. And as we stay with those live pictures, you just heard S. Jaishankar talk about the 26/11 attacks, the different people who lost their lives, ordinary Mumbaikars being a part of them. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar paying a tribute to the martyrs who lost their lives fighting the terrorists, the Pakistani terrorists on 26/11, 14 years ago. Saying it was not an attack on Mumbai, but an attack on the world. There were so many global citizens, international citizens, also foreign nationals staying at the Taj when the attack took place, and that the task until today remains unfinished, even as the UN Security Council counter-terror meeting takes place. As Jaishankar highlighting and underlining the importance of this meet that is happening here. When he says the task remains unfinished, he is referring to the fact that the terrorists, the masterminds of the 26/11 attack continue to be shielded, and they get state-sponsored support in Pakistan, and they're getting global support from countries like China that ensure that they are not designated as global terrorists. Countries like China and Pakistan are the biggest threats
to the victims of terrorism. I now invite the participants of this ceremony to proceed to the Crystal Hall of the hotel to participate in the further programs. The soft opening ceremony is adjourned.
I think the initial session of the UN Counter-Terror Committee has just concluded with the tribute being paid to the 26/11 victims. I think the message from S. Jaishankar was very, very powerful. The External Affairs Minister highlighting the fact that until today, countries like Pakistan and the masterminds continue to get support, and that the task of fighting terror remains unfinished. I'd like to play out the message of India's External Affairs Minister, who paid tribute to the 26/11 victims along with the delegates of this very special session that is being held at the Taj Hotel. Let's play that out.
Excellency, Mr. Michael Musa Adamo, Honorable Foreign Minister of the Gabonese Republic and President of the UN Security Council, heads of delegations of the UN Security Council member states, Excellencies. 14 years ago, on 26 November 2008, the city of Mumbai was witness to one of the most shocking terror attacks of our times. 140 Indian nationals and 26 citizens of 23 other countries lost their lives in a period of 4 days. In fact, this entire city was held hostage by terrorists who had entered from across the border. If much worse was averted, it was only because they ran into the collective resolve of Indian security forces, brave civilians, and the security and staff of this very Taj Hotel. All of them fought back valiantly in their own ways to ensure that the forces of evil were finally defeated. 18 members of the Indian police forces, 12 members of the Taj Hotel staff and security were martyred in the line of duty. As we pay tribute to them at this 26/11 memorial site, we salute their valor and resolve. We all recall that the victims included ordinary Mumbaikars going about their daily lives at the Chhatrapati Maharaj Terminus railway station, the patients, doctors and nursing staff at the Kama Hospital, the guests and staff of the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, of Cafe Leopold and the Oberoi Trident Hotel, the Chabad house where baby Moshe's parents were killed, and innocent bystanders on the streets. It was not just an attack on Mumbai, but an attack on the international community. Nationals of specific countries were identified before being murdered. As a result, the commitment of each and every member state of the United Nations to combat terrorism stood publicly challenged. Since then, we have endeavored to bring the masterminds and the perpetrators of this attack to justice. This task remains unfinished. Therefore, the coming together of the UNSC's Counter-Terrorism Committee to this venue is both special and significant. I thank all members of the Security Council and other member states who have joined us today in an expression of solidarity. Together, we should send out the message that the international community will never give up on holding terrorists accountable and delivering justice. 26/11 will never, ever be forgotten.
Thank you for staying with us with this, on this live coverage of this very symbolic and a special meeting that is being held behind me at the Taj Hotel, where you just heard S. Jaishankar. It's been 14 years since 26/11, ladies and gentlemen, and one of the messages sent by India is that the task remains unfinished. The task to fight terror remains unfinished. 166 people were killed in the 26/11 terror attacks, and the masterminds of this attack are alive and being shielded by Pakistan. And India's fight continues against terror. And that's why we say here at Republic TV, never forgive, never forget what happened back then on 26/11. Taking a short break, our live coverage continues here on Republic TV.
Style? For me, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance. Crisp, clean, classic, subtle brilliance. You don't know what it is that catches your eye, but it does, you know. The cut, the color, the lines. There's something in the essence of the evergreen. You feel special, selected. That's when I know I found the right fit, when I feel selected.
In other top international news, gunmen attacked a major Shiite holy site in Iran, killing at least 15 and wounding dozens. The attack comes as protesters elsewhere in Iran marked 40 days since a woman's death in custody ignited the biggest anti-government movement in over a decade. China's foreign minister's spokesperson Mao Ning says they are shocked and strongly condemn the attack on the Shiite holy site in Iran on Wednesday, which killed at least 15 and wounded dozens. A group of protesters gathered outside the British Embassy in Tehran, chanting slogans against Western media. The chants singled out the BBC's Persian service as well as Iran International. According to sources, protesters burned prints of the UK and LGBTQ rainbow flags. Billionaire Elon Musk has completed his $44 billion takeover of Twitter and fired the social media company's 4 top executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal and legal executive Vijaya Gadde. The deal's closing removes a cloud of uncertainty that has hung over Twitter's business, employees and shareholders for much of the year. The Twitter executives who were fired include Agarwal, Gadde, Chief Financial Officer Ned Siegel, and General Counsel Sean Edgett.
And here's a look at what else is making news. The Jammu and Kashmir police on Thursday arrested one terrorist of the proscribed terror outfit, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, following a search operation near the Shiri police station of Baramulla.
I will commence the program by presenting to you a video on the Mumbai terror attack.
Indian city of Mumbai endured 4 days of terror at the hands of 10 gunmen.
Fire coming out of the top of the dome of the old Taj Hotel and a huge plume of smoke. Just some time back we've heard some shots being fired here.
26/11/2008 के दिन मैं मेरे फैमिली के साथ, मेरे पापा, मेरे भाई और मैं, हम तीनों पुणे जाने के लिए बैंड्रा से सीएसटी गए थे। हम भागने की कोशिश की, वैसे कसाब की गोलियां के मेरे राइट पैर में लगी। के चेहरे पे एक मुस्कुराहट है, ऐसा लग रहा है उसे हम लोगों को मार के खुशी मिल रही है।
ये इंसिडेंट हुआ था जब कॉलेज के हम फ्रेंड्स सब लियोपोल्ड कैफे गए थे। हमें एक बड़ा सा धमाका ऐसे सुनाई दिया, तो हम बहुत डर गए क्योंकि हमें वो गोलियां दिख नहीं रही थी, पर दीवार पे वो लग रही थी, तो वो आवाज आ रहा था।
After killing 11 people at Cafe Leopold, Abu Shoaib and Abu Umar walked to the Taj Hotel.
I was terrified and you could hear grenades being thrown. I went on to the 5th and 6th floors and everything was shattered. It was burnt down.
We were made to stand in a line and we were shot point.
Indian city of Mumbai endured 4 days of terror at the hands of 10 gunmen.
Fire coming out of the top of the dome of the old Taj Hotel and a huge plume of smoke. Just some time back we've heard some shots being fired here.
26/11/2008 के दिन मैं मेरे फैमिली के साथ, मेरे पापा, मेरे भाई और मैं, हम तीनों पुणे जाने के लिए बैंड्रा से सीएसटी गए थे। हम भागने की कोशिश की, वैसे कसाब की गोलियां के मेरे राइट पैर में लगी। के चेहरे पे एक मुस्कुराहट है, ऐसा लग रहा है उसे हम लोगों को मार के खुशी मिल रही है।
ये इंसिडेंट हुआ था जब कॉलेज के हम फ्रेंड्स सब लियोपोल्ड कैफे गए थे। हमें एक बड़ा सा धमाका ऐसे सुनाई दिया, तो हम बहुत डर गए क्योंकि हमें वो गोलियां दिख नहीं रही थी, पर दीवार पे वो लग रही थी, तो वो आवाज आ रहा था।
After killing 11 people at Cafe Leopold, Abu Shoaib and Abu Umar walked to the Taj Hotel.
I was terrified and you could hear grenades being thrown. I went on to the 5th and 6th floors and everything was shattered. It was burnt down.
We were made to stand in a line and we were shot point blank. Unfortunately, the 2 guests didn't make it.
There's a corridor. I was at one end and the terrorist was on the other end. So he looked at me, started shooting. He threw a hand grenade on me. Behind me, just 3 feet distance. I jumped, screamed and I jumped. And I knew that point of time I'm going to be dead.
Mumbai was facing an unprecedented attack. Hearing reports of shooting at Kama Hospital, they got into a coalesce with 3 constables heading for the Kama Hospital back gate.
तो डॉक्टर ने बोला कि पेशेंट को अभी डिलीवरी मतलब होने वाली है, उसको लेबर रूम में शिफ्ट करो। जो आवाज़ आ रहा था ग्रेनाइट का, गन का, सब वही टाइम पे गोलीबार बहुत जोर जोर से आवाज़ है, वही टाइम पेशेंट की डिलीवरी हो गई।
They wanted anyone with British or American passports. Say anyone who had a British or American passport, they wanted to know. So I guess they were after foreigners, yeah.
First thing was bomb. They put a bomb. And not only one, it was around 2-3 bombs. And we were in the kitchen, me and one more helper. I was hiding in the storeroom and we were there up till 11:15 next morning. They didn't allow me to go anywhere. They just surrounded me like I was in a cage. And my baby, he started screaming looking at all that.
At that time in the hotel lobby, there must have been about 30 or so people. I saw, I would say, 10, 12 people fall to the ground whilst I was still there. I think about 4, maybe 5 of us actually made it out of that lobby area. And I was just lucky enough to be able to make it into that.
She is perhaps one of the worst sufferers of the carnage.
Because I refuse to leave the memory of them lying under that table.
We also have a video statement from Mr. Moshe Holzberg. Moshe is one of the youngest survivors of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. His parents were killed when terrorists attacked Nariman House, a Jewish outreach center and drug prevention service in Mumbai. May we play the video statement of Moshe.
אנשים ונשים יקרים, נציגים של כל אומות העולם במועצת הביטחון, שלום וברכה. שמי מוישי הולצברג מישראל. הייתי תינוק בן 2 לפני 14 שנה. גרתי עם ההורים היקרים שלי, גבי ורבקי, כאן במומביי, בנרימן האוז. ההורים שלי בנו כאן בית חב"ד בשליחות הרבי מלובביץ'. בית חם ופתוח לכל אדם, יהודים ושאינם יהודים. האומנת שלי סנדרה השכיבה אותי לישון כשלפתע נשמעו צרור יריות. מחבלים התפרצו לבניין שלנו וירו לכל עבר. הם רצחו את ההורים האהובים שלי ועוד 4 אורחים שהיו בבית חב"ד. סנדרה הצילה אותי מהתופת במסירות נפש. תודה לך השם הטוב. נשארתי יתום בלי אבא ואמא. סבא וסבתא שלי היקרים, הרב שמעון ויהודית רוזנברג, לקחו אותי לביתם בעפולה בישראל ומגדלים אותי עד עצם היום הזה. לפני 4 שנים ביקר נשיא הודו בישראל מיסטר נאינדרה מודי. היה חשוב לו מאוד לראות אותי. הזמינו אותנו לירושלים יחד עם ראש הממשלה שלנו, מר ביבי נתניהו. הוא חיבק אותי בחום ובהתרגשות והזמין אותי עם סבא וסבתא לבקר בהודו. התארחנו כאן בטאג' מהל. אני מודה לו מאוד ומתרגש על היחס החם שמקרין עליי. חשוב ביותר שאתם מתכנסים כאן היום כדי למצוא דרכים להילחם בטרור. שאף אדם לא יעבור מה שאני עברתי. שיהיה לכם בהצלחה.
I thank Moshe for his remarks and message, and I now have the honor to invite Devika Rotavan, a survivor of the 9/11 Mumbai attacks. Devika, you have the floor.
गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन। मेरा नाम देविका नटवाला रोटावन है। मैं मुंबई में रहती हूँ। 3rd ईयर बैचलर ऑफ आर्ट्स की स्टूडेंट हूँ।
Good morning, everyone. My name is Devika Rotavane. I am a resident of Mumbai, and I am a student of 3rd year graduation.
26/11/2008 की रात मैं मेरे फैमिली के साथ, मेरे पापा, मेरे भाई और मैं, हम तीनों पूना जाने वाले थे मेरे बड़े भाई को मिलने। CST स्टेशन हम कुछ 9:30 बजे के आसपास पहुंचते। वहाँ सडनली एक बॉम्ब स्पॉट होता है। अचानक से गोली फायरिंग होने लगती है। लोग भागने लगते। मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि आखिर वहाँ हो क्या रहा है। मेरे भाई भी अलग डायरेक्शन में भाग जाते हैं।
On the evening of 26 November, she was supposed to travel to Pune with her family, and that's why she has reached the Mumbai Chhatrapati Shivaji terminal. On that fateful night, she saw bullets being fired, and along with her father, they ran for cover.
मैं मेरे पापा के साथ भागने की कोशिश करती हूँ। हम भागने की कोशिश करते हैं, वैसे एक गोली आके मेरे राइट पैर में लग जाती है। तभी मैं वहाँ एक शख्स को देखती हूँ जिसके हाथ में बड़ी सी गन है और वह अंधाधुंध गोली फायरिंग कर रहा है।
While we were trying to take cover and trying to seek shelter, a bullet hit my leg, and then we saw this dreadful face of a terrorist who was firing indiscriminately.
मैं बेहोश हो जाती हूँ। वहाँ से मुझे जेजे हॉस्पिटल लेके गए। वहाँ मेरा करीबन 6 ऑपरेशन हुआ। मेरे पैर से गोली निकाला गया। मेरी पैर की हड्डी टूट चुकी थी।
She fainted. She was taken to the hospital. She was operated upon, and the bullet taken out of her injured leg.
जब मेरी उम्र 9 साल 11 महीने की थी, जिस दिन मुझे गोली लगी।
She was 9 years 11 months when she was shot.
मुझे मुंबई ऑफिसर से कॉल आया गया कि आप कोर्ट में आके आइडेंटिफाई करोगे। हमने बोला हाँ। मेरे पापा ने दोनों आतंकवादी को देखा था और मैंने कसाब को। 10 जून 2009 को मैं और मेरे पापा ने जाके कोर्ट में कसाब को आइडेंटिफाई किया।
Subsequently, she received a call from the local police asking if she would be willing to testify against the terrorist who was caught in India. She checked with her parents and then they went across to the judicial courts and submitted their testimony.
तब से मेरा एक ही सपना है कि मैं एक पढ़ लिख के ऑफिसर बनूं और पूरे टेररिज्म को खत्म करूं.
Since then, she's had one singular dream to study, become hopefully a police officer and end the scourge of terrorism.
छब्बीस 11 हमला हमारे देश में 3 दिन तक चला था मुंबई में. उन 3 दिनों में हमने हमारे देश के कहीं ऑफिसर, कहीं बेस्ट से बेस्ट ऑफिसर खो दिया गए, कहीं लोग मारे गए, कहीं लोग घायल हुए. हमें पूरा इंसाफ जब मिलेगा जब वो टेररिज्म पूरा खत्म होगा. जो आज भी मास्टरमाइंड जिंदा है, ना जाने उनके मन में क्या प्लानिंग होगा हमारे देश में या कहीं और जाके हमला करने का. मैं यही चाहती हूँ कि ऐसा हमला कहीं पर भी ना हो.
Thank you. The attacks lasted 3 to 4 days. Many brave policemen and armed forces lost their lives. She feels that proper justice would only be served when terrorism is completely eliminated from the face of this planet.
मैं यूएन के मेंबर से सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहती हूँ और अपने इंडियन गवर्नमेंट से कि ऐसे आतंकवाद के खिलाफ कड़ी से कड़ी कानून बनाया जाए कि कोई भी आतंकवाद हमारे देश में या कहीं पर भी हमला करने के पहले 100 बार सोचे कि किसी की भी जान ना लिया जाए.
It is important that the UN and the international community makes the strictest laws to ensure that such acts don't happen ever again.
मुझे यहाँ इनवाइट करने के लिए आप सभी को थैंक यू. जय हिंद, जय भारत, जय महाराष्ट्र.
She thanks everybody for inviting her to this August gathering. She says thank you.
I thank Devika for sharing with us her experience, and I now have the honor to invite Nidhi Chapikar. Nidhi is a survivor of the terrorist attack at Brussels airport in 2016. Nidhi, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Minister for External Affairs of India, Shri S. Jaishankarji, Honorable members of the United Nations Security Council, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to extend my gratitude to Madam Ruchira Kamboj, Permanent Representative of India to the United Nations, for inviting me over to be a part of this in memoriam. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Nidhi Chapikar. I was an air hostess with Jet Airways. I loved my job as flying crew as it made me feel limitless in skies. Until one such day changed my life forever. I lost my job, my passion, as I was injured in a bomb blast, and I am currently unemployed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm one of the victims of the terrorism and a survivor of the deadliest terror attack which took place in the history of Belgium on March 22, 2016 at Brussels. The blast left me extensively injured and I had to be kept in induced coma. Every day, my family was living with that pain of uncertainty as I was struggling between life and death. After 23 days of being in coma, I opened my eyes. Unfortunately, I could not even recognize my family members who were watching my excruciating pain and were my only support system. That was the effect and the trauma inflicted on me. I had lost my memory, but that's not the all. My body sustained nearly 20% burns. Some of my muscles were scooped, few of my bones got crushed, some bones got dissolved. I suffer from tinnitus, partial loss of hearing, my eardrums are damaged, resulting a pressure leak from my inner ear, which may cost me hearing loss in future. I still have many sharpeners, metal sharpeners, embedded in my body, with the one in my eye orbit. there's a fear that it could cost me my vision. To overcome the blast injuries, I had to undergo 22 surgeries, and few more may follow going ahead. The list is too long for me to mention. The trauma and its effects live with me every moment. Fortunately, being more determined than most others, I decided to assist those who did not have the confidence to celebrate life. This is the reason why I wrote a book named Unbroken, which illustrates how strong we have been created by God and how weak we tend to behave in difficult situations. My sufferings could be lesser or more, or could be different from many other victims of such circumstances. But one thing which remains common among all of us is the pain. We, as victims of terrorism, often struggle to have our voices heard. The fear of being forgotten and the fright of the sufferings going unnoticed. I believe our stories are powerful tools. Our experiences must be shared with the people to guide them to respect humanity and togetherness, and in turn, to achieve peaceful society, promote harmony, tolerance, and brotherhood. This in memoriam is convened to commemorate the victims of terrorism. It is the primary responsibility of the member states to support the victims of terrorism, to uphold and protect their rights, to help them recover from trauma, to fulfill their immediate and long-term requirements. Excellencies, to have this more prudent on the system, on behalf of the martyred victims, their families, and the surviving victims of terrorism, I request and appeal to the representatives of the member states, the distinguished dignitaries and other authorities to accord the victims of terrorism with the same benefits as provided to the national security forces. It would truly help the victims of terrorism to cope with their difficulties, would help them to recover from physical, psychological, social, or financial hardships. I conclude while reiterating that we are the victims of an attack on humanity. It is a mission for peace, normalcy, and tranquility. It is my appeal to all the representatives of the states to ensure that there is no safe haven provided to any kind of terrorism whatsoever. Being a prominent member and members and authorities, being a prominent member of the society.
So victims of global terror attacks speaking at the venue at the UN terror meeting that is underway at the Taj Hotel behind us, and very, very powerful testimonies that you've been hearing for the last 1 hour. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with the live coverage. Stay tuned.
It's hybrid by nature, a silent predator. The new breed rises above all others. A new breed of SUVs, the advanced Grand Vitara, rule every road.
In other top international news, gunmen attacked a major Shiite holy site in Iran, killing at least 15 and wounding dozens. The attack comes as protesters elsewhere in Iran marked 40 days since a woman's death in custody ignited the biggest anti-government movement in over a decade. China's foreign minister's spokesperson Mao Ning says they are shocked and strongly condemn the attack on the Shiite holy site in Iran on Wednesday, which killed at least 15 and wounded dozens. A group of protesters gathered outside the British Embassy in Tehran chanting slogans against Western media. The chants singled out the BBC's Persian service as well as Iran International. According to sources, protesters burned prints of the UK and LGBTQ rainbow flags. Billionaire Elon Musk has completed his $44 billion takeover of Twitter and fired the social media company's 4 top executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal and legal executive Vijaya Gadde. the deal's closing removes a cloud of uncertainty that has hung over Twitter's business, employees and shareholders for much of the year. The Twitter executives who were fired include Agarwal, Gandhi, Chief Financial Officer Ned Segal and General Counsel Sean Edgett.
Restaurants in these very corridors, they took bullets and formed a human chain so that they could protect our guests, who trusted us to do so. Atithi Devo Bhava, which means guest is God, is not just a slogan for us. It is something that we live by, and the world saw it that day. The bravery of my staff has become legendary, and it's part of case studies at Harvard and various movies. They all acted in individual pockets of courage and bravery. Not a single staff member left his place. So the question that is often asked is, how do you explain this? And all I would like to say is that I think it is the unique culture that binds us together, of decades of culture that we see in the Taj and the Tata Group.
And here's a look at what else is making news. The Jammu and Kashmir police on Thursday arrested one terrorist of the proscribed terror outfit, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, following a search operation near the Shiri police station of Baramulla. Jammu and Kashmir police have neutralized one terrorist in the encounter that took place at Kulgam district. The search operations are still underway. Samajwadi Party leader Azam Khan has been sentenced to 3 years in prison along with a fine of 2,000 rupees in a hate speech case against the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. The Union Law and Justice Minister Kiran Rijiju has written a scathing piece that says that marks the 75th anniversary of the former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's grievous mistakes in integrating Kashmir, for which India and Indians are paying in blood for 75 years. The Defence Minister has made a huge statement on Jammu and Kashmir's accession day, saying that our journey will be complete with Gilgit-Baltistan.
The NHRC on Thursday issued a notice to Rajasthan government over reports that girls are being auctioned on stamp paper in half a dozen districts of the state, and the refusal thereof is resulting in the rape of their mothers to settle financial disputes on the diktats of caste panchayats. The National Human Rights Commission, the NHRC, has taken suo motu cognizance of a media report in this regard.
The National Human Rights Commission has taken suo motu cognizance of a media report that in some districts of Rajasthan, the caste panchayats are very active in redressal of disputes, and especially in the matters where somebody has taken a loan and is unable to pay back the loan. So the caste.
In other top international news, gunmen attacked a major Shiite holy site in Iran, killing at least 15 and wounding dozens.
Come on stage for a group photograph with the victims of terrorism. I will also invite a very special guest, Ms. Vaishali Tukaram Umbale, wife of the late Shri Tukaram Kamble, who courageously faced the terrorists of the Mumbai attack, taking more than 20 bullets on his body while saving others. Thank you, Excellencies. Next, we have a presentation by Shri Pankaj Thakur, Joint Secretary, Government of India, providing a brief overview of the attack and the human aspects of the tragedy. Mr. Thakur, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. On November 26, 10 elite terrorists came to Mumbai via sea route and attacked the city. The mayhem lasted for about 60 hours. In the process, 5 static locations, including this hotel, were attacked, besides 3 IED blasts in taxis and incidents of indiscriminate firing on roads. In all, 166 persons lost their lives, including 26 foreign nationals, and 304 others got injured. Investigations revealed that locations of attacks were chosen for iconic status, high civilian footfall, and presence of foreigners and Jews. One of the key objectives behind these attacks was to keep elite cadres motivated for continued jihad against enemies of Muslim Ummah. Mumbai Police, National Security Guard, and Marine commandos cleared these locations, and in the process, 9 terrorists were killed, while 1 was captured alive. Security forces lost 18 of its officers and men. For these events, 47 accused persons were charged by the Indian courts. 4 accused persons could be arrested by Mumbai Police. The sole surviving assailant, Ajmal Kasab, was awarded capital punishment. The first attack was on Leopold Cafe that lasted for half an hour, wherein 2 terrorists killed 11 civilians. Hotel Taj Palace was taken hostage by 4 other terrorists for about 60 hours, in which 36 persons were killed. 2 terrorists stormed the Zabad house, which witnessed 9 deaths. Hotel Oberoi was subsequently taken hostage by 2 other terrorists for about 48 hours, in which 35 persons were killed. 2 terrorists lobbed hand grenades and opened fire at passengers at CST railway platform, killing 52 of them. Subsequently, they entered nearby Kama Hospital and resorted to indiscriminate firing, targeting people on the road, killing 16 persons in the process. As far as trajectory is concerned, the final leg of Mumbai terror attacks started with advanced training of the assailants in Muzaffarabad between June and August 2008. The assailants were trained for handling firearms, rocket launchers, and map reading. They were addressed and given motivational speeches by Hafiz Saeed and Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi. It was followed by another specialized training at Muridke for about 2 months. Here they were imparted training for hostage taking, stronghold tactics, and IED handling. Lakhvi had frequent interactions with trainees here. In September 2008, the assailants were imparted marine training. It involved swimming, sea acclimatization, GPS-based navigation, and handling inflatable boats. Here, for the first time, assailants were informed of Mumbai being the target. On November 23, 3 days prior to the attack, assailants left from Mumbai from an isolated creek before they were shifted to another boat, Al Husseini, on high seas, and were armed. On November 24, after 12 hours of travel, they captured an Indian boat, MV Kuber, while killing 4 crew members and capturing another for guiding them to Mumbai. On November 26, at around 13 hours, they used an inflatable dinghy to reach Mumbai source. As far as facilitation, investigations revealed that during the attack, assailants were in constant touch with their elite handlers through Callphonics VoIP services. VoIP services were hired by the user of karaktelco@yahoo.com. This email ID was accessed by 3 IPs across the border. Payment for VoIP services were made in October and November 2008 from foreign locations. The Yamaha engine of the dinghy was shipped from Japan to 2 locations across the border in September 2008. The 5 mobile sets seized from the assailants was shipped from Nokia factory in China to 2 mobile companies based across the border. Among the key conspirators was Hafiz Saeed, the main ideologue for the attack. During training, Hafiz Saeed motivated assailants for terror attack. Zakiur Rahman Lakwi, the chief military commander of LET, closely supervised terrorists' training. Sajid Mir, in charge of LET's India setup and was involved in selection of targets and conducting reconnaissance. During the attacks, he was present in the LET control room directing the assailants. Abu Al-Kafa is a senior LET trainer and was involved in every stage of the attack. He was also present in the LET control room during the attack. Abdul Aziz, the senior LET operative, was instrumental in getting assailants familiarized with Mumbai and facilitation of communication. Major Iqbal of ISI was thickly involved with every aspect of the attacks and had provided funds and hardware for the reconnaissance exercise. Now I would like to apprise you with the intrigue surrounding Sajid Mir, one of the key perpetrators of Mumbai terror attacks. In this voice clip, which you are going to hear, he can be heard directing the assailants at Sabad House.
तो जो जहाँ पे आपको मूवमेंट नजर आती है, बंदा जो छत पे चल रहा है, कोई आ रहा है, जा रहा है, उसको फाइट ठोको, उसे नहीं पता यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है। इंशाल्लाह।
He was one of the architects of the LET's Denmark project to target Danish newspaper, its editor and cartoonist in Copenhagen. Fortunately, the planned attack was foiled in time. He was declared dead for long, and even DNA test was produced to buttress this assertion. Owing to deeper international scrutiny, he finally was arrested and convicted in a terror financing case. As on date, his UN listing process, however, remains on hold. In the context of global fight against terrorism, I would like to finally flag challenges that needs to be surmounted. Despite UN proscription and security scrutiny, there is hardly any dent in the intent, capacity or activities of Lashkar-e-Taiba or similar such outfits operating out of the epicenter of terrorism. While on the face of it, these outfits appear to be India-centric, they nurse aspirations that would pose serious threat to global community if not checked. There is a need, therefore, to strengthen the proscription and monitoring mechanism further to ensure that incidents like Mumbai terror attack and the entailing impunities are never witnessed anywhere in the world. One step in this direction could be to further qualify and rationalize the process of putting listing proposals on hold. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. Excellencies, we will close this segment of commemoration of the victims of terrorism with a recording of a message that UN Secretary General, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, read out last week on 19 October from this very hotel's memorial site. The SG, many of you will recall, was on official visit to India on 18-19 October 2022.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and through the media that are present, people of Mumbai and people of India. Terrorism is absolute evil. There are no reasons, no pretexts, no causes, no grievances that can justify terrorism. Terrorism is absolute evil. And terrorism has no room in today's world. So I feel deeply moved to be here, where one of the most barbaric terrorist acts in history took place, where 166 people lost their lives. I want to pay tribute to the victims. They are heroes of our world. And I want to express my deepest condolences to their families, to their friends, to the people of India, and to all those that, coming from other parts of the world, have lost their lives in Mumbai. Fighting terrorism must be a global priority for every country on earth, and fighting terrorism is a central priority for the action of the United Nations. My first reform, when I became Secretary General, was to make the proposal of the creation of the Office of Counter-Terrorism, an office that is today, in full strength, able to cooperate with member states in order to provide the kind of assistance, training and advice that is necessary for all countries to be prepared to be able to prevent and simultaneously to fight against terrorist acts like the ones we have witnessed. And at the same time, this office is fighting the roots of violent extremism. There are no reasons to justify violent extremism, be it because of religion, because of ethnicity, because of whatever other belief that people might have. We need to attack those roots of violent extremism that try to provide justification so many times for terrorist acts. We need to be able to live with each other, to understand each other, to recognize that diversity is a richness, and I mean one of the most diverse countries in the world. We need to stay together, and we need to be much more effective in eliminating the root causes of terrorism, and much more united in fighting terrorism in all its expressions, and in making sure that terrorists will have no more place in our world. I want to thank the Indian government for the support it has been providing for all UN actions in the fight against terrorism, and I want once again to express my deepest solidarity to those that were directly or indirectly affected by the barbaric act that took place here and in other places of this city. May I end with the same words that I've started. Terrorism is absolute evil. It is the duty of all of us to fight it without any kind of hesitation. Thank you very much.
In progression, it is my pleasure to begin the proceedings of the next item on our agenda, an informal briefing on combating terror financing in the local and regional contexts. To begin with, allow me to invite Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India, to give the inaugural address. Sir, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Mr. Michael Musa Adamo, Honorable Foreign Minister of the Gabonese Republic and President of the UN Security Council, Honorable Ministers, Heads of Delegations of the UN Security Council Member States, Your Excellency, Mr. Vladimir Voronkov, UN Under-Secretary General for Counter-Terrorism, important civil society stakeholders who have traveled across the world for this briefing, Ambassador Ruchira Kamboj, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking all of you for traveling to Mumbai to attend this informal briefing of the Counter-Terrorism Committee of the UN Security Council today. Your presence here demonstrates the commitment that each one of you and your countries and all other stakeholders from various organizations have shown towards combating the common threat of terrorism. It expresses too our collective resolve at strengthening the multilateral efforts led by the United Nations to address this threat holistically and collectively. Terrorism is a serious threat to international peace and security, indeed to the entire humanity. We have heard the voices of its victims today. Their loss is immeasurable and can never be made up. However, it is incumbent on us as responsible members of the international community to remember their trauma and to persevere in our efforts to bring the perpetrators of terrorism to justice. We owe this to every victim of terrorism across the world. Even as the Mumbai terrorist attacks were unfolding on 28 November in 2008, the UN Security Council met and in one voice condemned this act of cross-border terrorism and said, I quote, "The members of the Council underline the need to bring perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of these reprehensible acts of terrorism to justice and urged all states to cooperate with Indian authorities in this regard. All acts of terrorism are criminal and unjustifiable regardless of their motivation." Now, in another month, we will be observing the 14th anniversary of these ghastly attacks on Mumbai in November 2008. While one of the terrorists was captured alive, prosecuted, and convicted by the highest court in India, the key conspirators and planners of the 26/11 attacks continue to remain protected and unpunished. When it comes to proscribing some of these terrorists, the Security Council has regrettably been unable to act in some cases because of political considerations. This undermines our collective credibility and our collective interests. A key aspect of combating terrorism is to effectively curb terror financing. Today, the Counter-Terrorism Committee will also be hearing from experts on countering financing of terrorism in the local and regional context. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that money is the lifeblood of terrorism. Terrorist organizations require funds and resources to maintain their organizational functioning and undertake activities. The reality that terrorism continues to exist and expand points to an underlying truth that terrorism continues to get the necessary financial resources to thrive. In this regard, therefore, I would like to make 5 points for the committee's consideration. 1. Effective and sustained efforts at countering terror financing is at the heart of the issue of countering terrorism. Normative efforts at the UN need to be coordinated through collaboration with other fora like the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, and the Egmont Group. 2. We need to ensure that the effective and transparent functioning of the Security Council's sanctions regime and make sure that they are not rendered ineffective for political reasons. Objective and evidence-based proposals for listing of terrorist groups, especially those that curb their access to financial resources, must be seen through. 3. International cooperation and concerted action against terrorists and their sponsors, including through dismantlement of terrorist safe havens, sanctuaries, training grounds, and financial and ideological as well as political support structures, are critical imperatives to defeat this scourge. 4. Terrorism's nexus with transnational organized crime, illicit drugs, and arms trafficking is by now well established. It is important that we recognize these linkages and strengthen multilateral efforts to break them. And 5. Over the years, terrorist groups have diversified their funding portfolio. They have also begun to exploit the anonymity afforded by new and emerging technologies, such as virtual currencies, for fundraising and finances. In this regard, we look forward to the deliberations of the special meeting of the committee tomorrow at New Delhi to provide innovative solutions for the international community to consider. Terrorism may have plagued several regions of the world. We, in India, understand its cost more than others. But with that experience comes the steeling of national resolve. Decades of cross-border terror has not and will not weaken our commitment to fight back. Our real tribute to the victims will be to rededicate ourselves to combating and eliminating the menace of terrorism, and this by stronger determination and joint action. We must rise above our political differences to address this scourge. The battle against terrorism must be fought resolutely at all fronts, all situations, and all places. We cannot be found wanting in our efforts. As the UN Secretary General stated, terrorism is pure evil, one with which we can never compromise. I'm confident that today's briefing on this important aspect of combating terrorism will assist the international community in that direction. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir. We will now hear two presentations on countering the financing of terrorism. Let me first invite Shri Safi Rizvi, Joint Secretary, Government of India, for a presentation on countering the financing of terrorism in national and regional contexts. Mr. Rizvi, you have the floor.
Two changes. Albania will now take over. Swiss delegation name is different.
Wait, what about?
While the system goes on, good afternoon, Your Excellencies. Thank you for this opportunity, ma'am. I will be bringing before you a short presentation on countering financing of terrorism, and this we will detail in the context of India and the region, the South Asian region in which we are. And इसको close कर दीजिए, यहाँ से close कर दीजिए, लाइए हम करते हैं. So the first slide I'd like to show you is basically a theoretical construct of how we in India take a look at combating financing for terrorism. 20 years ago, in 1999 and 2001, when the Security Council brought in those excellent resolutions, there was just no concept. Nobody knew that there was a concept of combating financing of terrorism. That entire paradigm was started just 2 decades ago, and this presentation will show you how far it has taken the aspect of countering terrorism. So in India, we are beset with 5 types of conflict theaters. The first on the left side in the heading of the rows is Kashmir militancy, which has taken so many lives. Islamic terror, again cross-border Islamic terror. Cross-border pro-Khalistan extremism in the western state of Punjab. Then northeast insurgencies, they've been there historically, many of them have been resolved. And left-wing extremism. So the reason why we are showing you this matrix is just to show that our security professionals have had to build completely separate kinds of paradigms, different kind of analytical structures to be able to deal with this kind of a terror. So the first 3 are the organized channels: banks, credit cards, debit cards, and money value transfer services, which now has started including fintech services. Given India's speed of digitization, there are so many more fintech services that are now available. These buttons, the red ones, show you high risk that India faces. So quite obviously, it's the cash and hawala which has sustained. And one of the most important points that the global community needs to look at is that despite the fact that over the past 2 decades, anti-money laundering and countering financing of terror authorities have focused on trying to digitize everything, still cash and hawala remains the primary focus, the primary channel by which terrorists get their funds. So possibly it is the amount of stringent checks that we have in opening bank accounts and various other e-wallets and other things, maybe that is continuing to push these people into the world of cash and hawala. In the recent past in India and in the rest of the world, we've seen the introduction of cryptocurrencies. and drones. Drones is a very specific to the Indian concept. This is something that will be deliberated on in detail tomorrow, so I will not focus much on this. However, as regards these buttons, cryptos is not much of a problem right now, but between cryptos and cash, digitization, as in fintech services, is something that does bother us, and it has been seen as being used by many terrorist organizations. Drones is becoming a very serious problem in the last 1.5 years, especially because given that their source is from cross-border regions and the destination is our bordering states of Punjab and Kashmir. So we see great risk coming in the pro-Khalistan and the Kashmir side from drones. Just to highlight, now we move to, earlier we showed you channels of terror financing, now we are moving to sources of terror financing. So there are essentially 7 sources that India focuses on. These are the ones that are medium or low risk. However, the high risk ones, the ones that really bother India, are arms trafficking in 4 theaters out of 5, extortion, 2 theaters out of 5, and the biggest and the most troublesome is state sponsorship, which has basically taken over the interest of the entire counter-terrorism community in India. So this is a theoretical construct. Behind each button that we have put in, there must be reams and reams of paper, reams and reams of investigators' notes, and a lot of legal work that has been done to arrive at these buttons. They may appear to be very small and minor right now. Given the shortage of time, we thought it better to encapsulate everything in these 2 slides. Now I shall endeavor to show that the very presence of those 2 resolutions in 1999 and 2001 and successor resolutions, how effective they have been in the context of India. If they had not been there and UN designations did not exist, India today would not have had that window of relative peace that it saw for 4 years, which we will just show you. So in the concept of combating financing of terrorism was brought into the Dictionary of Terrorism by the United Nations. The FATF in the last 10 years has become a very effective tool to implement those very designations. Without the UN, the FATF would have been ineffective, and without the FATF, the UN would not have been able to enforce all its designations. With specific interest to India, 2 terrorist organizations, Jaish-e-Mohammed in 2001 and Lashkar-e-Toiba in 2005 were designated. Alongside 9 India-focused terrorist individuals were designated, and I will show you how these designations and FATF were able to make impact. There was a grey listing of a troublesome jurisdiction in 2018, so those 4 years from 18 to middle of 22 saw relative peace. So there are 4 types of impacts of these designations plus FATF actions. Number 1, all these UN designated entities, the 9 that I have mentioned, they were all arrested, prosecuted and convicted. Open terrorist activity was largely restricted, proscribed and not available anymore. Hard targets that were being attacked in India, that came down relatively. And finally, the terrorist bases that exist across the border reduced substantially. However, we'll now go to each specific impact. So the first impact, some of these photographs you have seen in my colleague's presentation previously. These 8 were terrorists were arrested and convicted. Zafar Iqbal for 283 years cumulatively. However, all these sentences will run in parallel, so maybe he'll be out in 10 to 12 years. And the 9th one, Masood Azhar, the one of great interest to India, because he was sprung from an Indian prison in the year 2000, in the year 1999 after an Indian Airlines plane was hijacked. Then he was the key person who was in touch with Osama bin Laden and very close to the Taliban leadership. In those years, in 96 to 2001, the Taliban was on an ascendant in Afghanistan. That is when the Al-Qaeda found safe haven in Afghanistan and planned all those horrific attacks, 9/11, the East Africa bombings of US embassies and that of USS Cole, and several attacks in India. So this Masood Azhar has been convicted, but interestingly, the court has convicted him in absentia and he's not been arrested yet. However, this is the first impact of UN designations on terrorism. Second impact, open activity, as in raising of funds on social media, Facebook, Twitter, which was which was almost always there on a daily basis, especially during certain festival times, has completely stopped after 2018, after the grey listing of a certain jurisdiction. Open public meetings of thousands of people. This gentleman who is marked out right now is not a gentleman. He is the UN designated head of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Hafiz Saeed. This is a photograph of 2017 displayed prominently on social media, all of which was forced to stop after the UN's designations were enforced by the FATF. This is another picture of one of those terrorists whose photographs I had shown earlier in the previous slide, who actually had a police escort. This is again a late 2017 picture. By 2018, all this had stopped. Even now, we don't see very much of such open terrorist activity. Third impact. This is a map of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So I'm discussing now hard targets. Hard targets means well-defended targets, government offices, military camps, and police camps. So to attack a hard target, you need very well-trained terrorists, you need suicide bombers, you need people who have had training in terrorist camps for 8, 9, 10 months or are highly motivated. So 5 attacks we saw in the state of Kashmir in 2014, that moved up to 8 the next year, 15 the year after that, came down marginally to 8 in 2017, and went down to just 3 in 2018. We shall see why. 2019, there was one aberration, and a very big aberration, the Pulwama attack, for which India had to conduct the Balakot airstrikes. 2020, there was no hard target attacked. 2021, again, by the end of 2021, these attacks started coming back. And now in 2022, we see them increasing. So just to summarize here, why did this decline happen from 18 to 21? Number one was grey listing by that troublesome jurisdiction based on which all the UN designations were enforced. Second was very detailed intelligence-led counter-terrorism operations, which my colleague who spoke, he mentioned in detail. Third was the Balakot airstrikes, which also pushed the entire terrorist infrastructure to the side. And then reading down of Article 370, which reduced any tendencies for secessionism. These 4 reasons were the reasons for the decline. However, a large portion of the credit goes to the designations and FATF. N21, when chances of delisting from the grey list started becoming fairly prominent and much talked about, we started seeing the return of terrorist infrastructure, cross-border terrorist infrastructure, and the return of attacks on Indian targets. The fourth impact, what I had mentioned earlier about the terrorist bases, cross-border terrorist bases. So in mid of 2018, somewhere just close to the listing, there were nearly 600 such terrorist bases across the border. They went down by 75% during the FATF listing. This, we think, is one of the most important successes on account of which the Counter-Terrorism Committee should take a deeper look as to how effective designations are. Then, the moment the grey listing started, the talk started that the grey listing is about to end, which has ended now. It has gone up back by 50%, and we are expecting more scalable, more attacks on hard targets, and much more trouble. So the 4 things we see since N21, especially in this year: 1, as is mentioned, cross-border terrorist camps are rising. 2, the flow of foreign terrorists into J&K. Till about 2-3 years ago, we had maybe a small flow, but now it's much more. About 60 to 70% of the current stock of terrorists available on our records, and followed by the counter-terrorism agencies, it must be about 60 to 70%. Attacks on soft targets have started again. This is a precursor to attacks on hard targets. And even migrant workers, poor people just walking on the street, religious minorities, Kashmir Pandits are being killed. 5 or 6 cases have already happened in this year. And finally, as I mentioned in the first slide on terror financing matrix, use of drones to ferry IEDs a very, very large section of the equipment coming in from cross borders through IEDs, small arms, and heroin to finance the entire terrorist network. So after showing these four impacts and then the however on how things have started sliding back in the last 6, 7, 8 months, just there's some very key lessons to be learned from the FATF model. It's a unique model. It's very different from normal multilateral bodies. Number one, if you compare it to the UN is a completely legal body which is available in every country's statutes, whereas FATF is entirely a voluntary body. The UN works on majority, whereas FATF works on consensus. By consensus, it has a positive also, that everybody agrees, and the negative is that a few countries can get together and gang up against another member. Then the UN is very transparent, as everything is open, everything is recorded, everything is available for everyone to see. However, the FATF works in a completely classified fashion. And then the UN works on formal sanctions, discussed, debated ad nauseum, whereas FATF works on ostracism, that if one member is not doing things right and 38 others think he's not, then that person is cast out of the financial system. So maybe a leaf can be taken out of the FATF model, and the monitoring team that is set up by the UN's Sanction Committee, it does a fantastic job of its 6 monthly reports, where it archives in detail and very, very A-class detail, and latest details are archived. Just a simple thing like an advisory page could be added. An advisory page which suggests due diligence on transactions. There are many forms of due diligence on transactions, international transactions. It could be enhanced due diligence, it could be light touch due diligence. There are various categories which can be devised. Thirdly, you can think of a country or entity-wise classification, as in a red, blue, yellow, any kind of classification. And a copy of each of these advisories could be addressed to central banks and with a request for compliance. Having worked in the FATF system for several years now, this simple method is bound to make a lot of difference and will definitely give greater results. Second, considering the effectiveness, as we have just shown, of just 9 terrorist designations and of 2 entities, there has been so much impact. There are many more designations are required. As EAM, India's foreign minister, mentioned, very professional listing and enlisting and delisting is the best way forward. The victims of terror in this country, for the past 30 years, 3 decades now, starting with Mumbai, where we had serial blasts in this very city, which nobody really now remembers or talks about. 2611 is the most talked about. 15 years before that, in 1993, 14 serial blasts had taken place and 300 people had died in this very city. That's when terror started. That's when cross-border terror started. That's when India's troubled neighborhood and what was happening in Afghanistan at that time, post-1989, is when it started affecting India. These are the attacks that India has faced over the years. All are iconic targets, like the Red Fort in Delhi was attacked, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly was attacked, the Parliament, Indian Parliament was attacked just 7 days after Osama bin Laden was encircled in the Tora Bora caves after Operation Enduring Freedom had started. Similarly, there were several other attacks, and I just leave you with this huge list of 17 cases, which is not the entire universe of cases that India has faced, just to show you how difficult a place we are in, the difficulty of the counter-terrorism professionals in India, and the request that we keep making to the Counter-Terrorism Committee on designations, how effective that can be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rizvi. I will now invite Svetlana Martinova, Senior Legal Officer at the Counter-Terrorism Committee Executive Directorate, to give the UN CTED's perspective on the dynamic nature of terror financing, particularly in the South Asia region. Svetlana, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And before I begin, allow me to express my gratitude to the Government of India for the hospitality accorded to us all, and to the Permanent Mission of India to the United Nations for inviting me to speak in this session. It is an honor to be addressing you today on the matter of countering the financing of terrorism, or CFT as we call it for short, in this region. As many of you would recall, monitoring compliance with the CFT-related requirements of Security Council resolutions has been within the core mandate of the Counter-Terrorism Committee since its very inception in 2001, and consequently became one of the key focused areas of the work of its Executive Directorate, or CTED, which is also the body that continuously analyzes evolving terrorism financing trends and methods, CFT responses, gaps, and good practices, as well as any potentially negative impacts of CFT measures on civic space, human rights, legitimate activity of non-profit sector, and exclusively humanitarian activity. Zooming into the region of South Asia, CTED has recently assessed that the states of this sub-region have overall made good progress addressing their CFT regime deficiencies. All South Asian states have enacted standalone offenses covering the financing of terrorism in their criminal laws, and where any outstanding shortcomings persist, they're being addressed through the relevant procedures within the Financial Action Task Force and its relevant regional bodies. All states of this sub-region have functioning financial intelligence units, although some remain under-resourced in terms of staffing and equipment. With respect to freezing of terrorist funds, the framework mechanisms are mostly in place, but their effectiveness varies from one country to another. In terms of terrorism financing threats, and this is consistent with the overall global trends, some of the regional terrorist groups have increased their financial resources from engaging in kidnapping, extortion, drugs trafficking, and other forms of crime, as mentioned by speakers before me. In several instances, charitable organizations have been exploited to finance terrorist acts in the region. Elaborating further on vulnerabilities, and as highlighted in our 2021 Global Implementation Survey, many South Asian states have large informal and cash-based economies. As also just highlighted by the esteemed speaker before me, cash and alternative money remittance services continue to prevail in terms of methods terrorists use to store and move funds. In this region, too, unregistered money remitters remain one of the most prevalent transfer means for terrorist purposes. Some groups continue to abuse the regulated financial system, exploiting persistent loopholes in AML-CFT regulation and enforcement. In addition, many terrorist groups in the region continue to rely on Hawala-like channels. The majority of the states here need to further strengthen the capacity of their customs officers to prevent and detect the illicit cross-border movement funds via cash couriers. At the same time, there is also an overall increase in the use of these traditional methods of financing in combination with the new and emerging payment technologies.
All right, we have been bringing to you, viewers, live proceedings of the United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee. The entire top brass of the committee has trooped down to Mumbai. They earlier paid respects at the 26/11 memorial. The committee deals with terror and how to tackle it. And India made a presentation on how India has suffered and learnt its lessons and tackled terror, but more importantly, how the world needs to do more. Very crucially, for the first time perhaps for the public eye, 26/11 terror evidence, the 26/11 terror attack evidence based out of Pakistan, The entire operation was carried out from a Pakistan-based, Karachi-based control room. All that was shared, including audio clips, for the world community to see the kind of complicity that the Pakistani deep state had with the 26/11 terror attack in Mumbai in the year 2008, in which almost a dozen odd citizens of a dozen odd nations, including the United States, United Kingdom, and Germany and Israel, lost their lives. Very importantly, India told the world that the 5 mobile phones used by perpetrators of the 26/11 terror attacks came from China and were assembled with the explosives and other material and given to the terrorists in Karachi, from where Pakistani army major was embedded in the control room and monitored the operation, guided the terrorists. All that crucial terror evidence of 26/11 attacks shared with the world for the first time in public. Major K.K. Sinha joining us live, I believe. General Sinha, welcome. Counter-terrorism committee, United Nations Security Council meeting going on in Mumbai. And most crucially, India has shared very important evidence of 26/11 terror attacks, which directly implicates the Pakistani army, the Pakistani deep state, and even China in it. You think this is going to have an impact insofar as consensus in dealing with terror is concerned around the world?
Abhishek, Jai Hind. You asked me whether it is going to make a dent. It is going to make a huge dent. You know, this United Nations Security Council counter-terrorism meeting, which is happening first time, it is a rare opportunity and a great opportunity. And India, which is actually spearheading, the crusade of fighting the terrorism, started in 2001 when we questioned of defining the terrorism itself. And today in 2022, you are witnessing that, a rare, a very organized, a very focused, a synergetic meet which is taking place. Earlier, we were, just having the lip service. Everyone had a different perception. India, you take it. It is not only rare, it's the rarest of rare, opportunity which India got it, and we are using it very, very well. Not only the role of Pakistan and China, the way the India is also questioning and trying and suggesting the UN role, and also FATF, the way the FATF has been working and, providing some relief and some targeted relief, and how it can be further improved. India is giving a very holistic and wholesome approach to fight the terrorism, which is the global phenomena as of today. I think it is you asked me, it is not only reviewing what is there. We are not only exposing to 26/11, but we are telling how a country like China, from where the mobile phones get assembled, how, the things of cybercrime is going on, how the use of drone, what is the role of China in this, the role of Pakistan, which is the epicenter of terrorism.
Sir, also in the presentations, the presentations that were made, I'll have to go to Niranjan. He's reporting live. Just stay back with us, sir. I'll come back to you with more questions, but I have to go to the Taj, where Niranjan is reporting live from. Niranjan, over to you. What more can you share us about what's happening there on the ground?
Well, Abhishek, one of the big takeaways, and it's so right, because while the MEA secretaries were speaking and the representatives of the Indian government were speaking, one of the points that were made is how in this city since the last 3 years, we've had the Bombay blast of 1993, when over 300 people were killed in over 14 serial blasts. 14 years ago in the hotel where this event is being held, this symbolic event, and you heard all those testimonies, Abhishek. You've been listening to each one of them, not just victims of the 26/11 terror attack, but even those Indians who've been victims of terror attacks across the world, including in countries like Belgium, etc. Now, the takeaway from here is that I think India is aggressively pushing for sanctions and pushing for action against countries that not just supply, countries that support and back the terror infrastructure. I think some of the biggest takeaways, were the mentions, the clear and direct mentions of China without naming China. Of course, the Chinese, Chinese equipment that were used in 26/11, talking about China's backing of the terrorists and the blocking of the designation of these global terrorists. And then you had India, how since the delisting of FATF of Pakistan from the grey list became apparent since late 2020, the number of terror attacks are on the rise. I think India is aggressively pushing the UN and the global community to sort of wake up and ensure that there is some sort of a mechanism that is a mandatory on countries like Pakistan, for example, to not just pull wool over all our eyes in the global community, but to ensure that there is actually no groupism, for example, like what happens at the UN. Until 4 to 5 days back, you had China blocking the designation of another global, and they've done that again and again, from Hafiz Saeed's son to even Sajid Mir. Terrorists. I think, Abhishek, this is in asking for this UN counter here at the Taj. It's symbolic, and it means that India is aggressive to focus on these terror nations like Pakistan. Abhishek, I'm handing it over to you. You've also been listening to some of those speeches. Just to tell our viewers some of the points that India has put very aggressively this morning here at the Taj at the UN Counter-Terror Committee meeting. They've put out proof against Pakistan point by point, from Pakistan's state-sponsored terror planning, plotting, execution of terror attacks to their terror exporting in Kashmir. They even mentioned the attacks on Kashmiri Pandits. They mentioned religious minorities. And who's in the audience? You have UN member nations, UNSC member nations, the 15 member countries, and India heading this one. It's a symbolic meeting, perhaps for the first time since 2015, if I'm not wrong, that it's held outside of Europe. And the fact that it's being held here at the Taj in Mumbai, 14 years after 26/11, is symbolic. This is making, there are several headlines that are coming out of it, Abhishek.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Niranjan. We have put the perpetrators of terror and those backing them, shielding them, protecting them on the mat, and for the world community to really look in the eye, because the kind of evidence that has been produced before them for the first time in public domain, I think this dilly-dallying, this dithering, this indulgence, this winking that we see sometimes, that has to really end. So, for example, those who made presentations on behalf of India, including our intelligence officials, they made it amply clear that I can hear the PCR, and they made it very clear that the mechanisms at the FATF, for example, while they work, are very effective. But if they are, if they are indulged with, then they can have consequences. So, for example, a presentation was made, Niranjan, I'll go to General Sinha on that note, that till 2017, when Pakistan was not grey listed by FATF, the number of terror attacks that took place in the valley were much higher. Subsequent to grey listing of Pakistan, the constraints that were put on terror financing, the number of terror attacks became a trickle. And now, as a build-up to this information only, General Sinha, this is very important, and I would need your intervention on that. A presentation was made, and the world was told that as a build-up to the occasion when Pakistan was taken out of grey list and whitelisted, so to say, the number of terror attacks have increased. So this perception that Pakistan would be out of the grey list, off the hook, emboldened the terror network within Pakistan, and they started, fomenting trouble even more, even before Pakistan was taken out of the grey list. So I think in that sense, General Sinha, it's important that the world community appreciates this evidence, and that might have been the purpose why India really shared all that in black and white when they are here, and at that occasion where they are at the Taj, which is an iconic place, which has been target of terror attack during 26/11.
Yeah, Abhishek, absolutely. The way the MEA Secretary he has put across, and very, very systematically. He started from 2014 when he said there were 5 attacks, then it has gone to 8, then 15. And then how it came down, because the way the India was doing it in 2018, 3. And then 19, there was an unfortunate, that is the Pulwama, he said. After that, what he said, then in 2018, the Pakistan was put in the grey list. And it has come down because of that. And then what we did, the Balakot, absolutely things were now the Pakistan is again put, out of the grey list. And the way the things are happening, they have given evidence with a very systematic and a very thorough research thing, on black and white. So it is to the world, because today the world is taking the note of it, and the world is going through this global terrorism.
Yeah.
So this terrorism,
Sir,
it is not just.
We're getting some more pictures from the Taj where the event is taking place. Sir, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I'll come back. We'll continue to have this conversation, but I have to go to Niranjan briefly. I think Niranjan has some update from Taj where he's reporting from. Niranjan.
Well, I also wanted to, highlight how India, S. Jaishankar, when he spoke this morning, he spoke, I think, on 2 occasions, but after paying tribute to the victims of 26/11, he made a strong point that India's fight against terror continues. He says the task is unfinished. I think that's the line, Abhishek, that the task in fighting terror is unfinished, and that's why India is aggressively trying to put the facts. And in recent past, we've never seen an event or an attempt by India on this scale to highlight how Pakistan has gotten away and has tried to sort of hoodwink the entire world with facts, with presentation, and with some of the biggest ambassadors of the world in attendance and watching and taking note. I think this becomes all the more significant. There are several headlines. Before we go across and tell you some of the big takeaways, I'd like to play out what S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, said after paying tribute to the victims of 26/11 at the Taj. This is where it all started on 26/11, about 14 years back. Take a listen.
Excellency, Mr. Michael Musa Adamo, Honorable Foreign Minister of the Gabonese Republic and President of the UN Security Council, heads of delegations of the UN Security Council member states, Excellencies. 14 years ago, on 26 November 2008, the city of Mumbai was witness to one of the most shocking terror attacks of our times. 140 Indian nationals and 26 citizens of 23 other countries lost their lives in a period of 4 days. In fact, this entire city was held hostage by terrorists who had entered from across the border. If much worse was averted, it was only because they ran into the collective resolve of Indian security forces, brave civilians, and the security and staff of this very Taj Hotel. All of them fought back valiantly in their own ways to ensure that the forces of evil were finally defeated. 18 members of the Indian police forces, 12 members of the Taj Hotel staff and security were martyred in the line of duty. As we pay tribute to them at this 26/11 memorial site, we salute their valor and resolve. We all recall that the victims included ordinary Mumbaikars going about their daily lives at the Chhatrapati Maharaj Terminus railway station, the patients, doctors and nursing staff at the Kama Hospital, the guests and staff of the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, of Cafe Leopold and the Oberoi Trident Hotel, the Chabad House where baby Moshe's parents were killed, and innocent bystanders on the streets. It was not just an attack on Mumbai, but an attack on the international community. Nationals of specific countries were identified before being murdered. As a result, the commitment of each and every member state of the United Nations to combat terrorism stood publicly challenged. Since then, we have endeavored to bring the masterminds and the perpetrators of this attack to justice. This task remains unfinished. Therefore, the coming together of the UNSC's Counter-Terrorism Committee to this venue is both special and significant. I thank all members of the Security Council and other member states who have joined us today in an expression of solidarity. Together, we should send out the message that the international community will never give up on holding terrorists accountable and delivering justice. 26/11 will never ever be forgotten.
Thank you for staying with us. We're taking a short break here on Republic TV. When we come back, getting you the details of the UN terror meeting that is being held in Mumbai at a symbolic time, at a symbolic location. We're at the Taj, where one of the world's biggest terror attacks took place 14 years ago. India is making a tough point in battling global terror. Taking a short break, back with the live coverage.
Style? For me, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance. Crisp, clean, classic, subtle brilliance. You don't know what it is that catches your eye, but it does, you know. The cut, the color, the lines. There's something in the essence of the evergreen. You feel special, selected. That's when I know I found the right fit, when I feel selected.
And here's a look at what else is making news. The Jammu and Kashmir police on Thursday arrested one terrorist of the proscribed terror outfit, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, following a search operation near the Shiri police station of Baramulla. Jammu and Kashmir police have neutralized one terrorist in the encounter that took place at Kulgam district. The search operations are still underway. Samajwadi Party leader Azam Khan has been sentenced to 3 years in prison along with a fine of 2,000 rupees in a hate speech case against the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. The Union Law and Justice Minister Kiran Rijiju has written a scathing piece that says that marks the 75th anniversary of the former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's grievous mistakes in integrating Kashmir, for which India and Indians are paying in blood for 75 years. The Defence Minister has made a huge statement on Jammu and Kashmir's accession day, saying that our journey will be complete with Gilgit-Baltistan.
The NHRC on Thursday issued a notice to Rajasthan government over reports that girls are being auctioned on stamp paper in half a dozen districts of the state, and the refusal thereof is resulting in the rape of their mothers to settle financial disputes on the diktats of caste panchayats. The National Human Rights Commission, the NHRC, has taken suo motu cognizance of a media report in this regard.
The National Human Rights Commission has taken suo motu cognizance of a media report that in some districts of Rajasthan, the caste panchayats are very active in redressal of disputes, and especially in the matters where somebody has taken a loan and is unable to pay back the loan. So the caste.
In other top international news, gunmen attacked.
Welcome back. You're watching the live coverage of the UN terror meeting. This is the UNSC counter-terror committee meeting that is being held in Mumbai. It's a symbolic meeting being held at a very symbolic location at the Taj, the location that was targeted by Pakistani terrorists 14 years ago, where over 160 people died. Indians, innocent Mumbaikars, foreign nationals, many of whom at this location where we are reporting from. You heard some very powerful speeches from the Indian External Affairs Minister, members of the Indian External Affairs Ministries, secretaries, India's envoy to the United Nations. And the one point that India is trying to make from Mumbai at the location that was targeted is that there is enough proof, enough evidence. And despite the evidence, and in the course of the last few hours, you've had tapes being played out, you've had testimonies of some of the survivors of the 26/11 attacks. You've had proof in the form of evidence that was collected over the last 14 years and more being shared with an international audience, including ambassadors, decision makers at the UN counter-terror mechanism, where India is trying to make that point that despite the evidence that has been available with the global community, there is very little accountability as far as countries like Pakistan and China go. The reason why India is even questioning countries like China is because of the technical support that they've given to countries like Pakistan, for example, in trying to stall the designation of some of the world's most wanted terrorists, ensuring that they are not designated at all. India has even gone on to put out some facts in front of the UN Terror Committee to ensure that the world takes note of how there is a pattern to Pakistan's export of terror with the help of slides. And let me go across to Abhishek as well, getting a word from Abhishek as we get you some of the headlines from here. Abhishek, you heard those tapes, you heard the testimonies, and I think the entire focus of India has been since this morning to put the focus on the inaction. And I think the word used by one of the speakers from India is how there is a grouping. Sometimes there is a grouping that is allowed to call the shots in bodies like the UN and the FATF, especially India, talking about the ineffectiveness of the FATF with facts, talking about how from 2017 to late 2021 there was almost a decline in terror activity, for example, across the border, just to ensure that they get delisted. And just when they know they're going to be delisted, there is a spike across the border, putting out details of where these terror camps are and how since late 2021 there is an uptick in the number of attacks, not just attacks but terror activity as well. In the larger scheme of things, I think, Abhishek, it's been one of the most aggressive campaigns by India to expose countries like Pakistan and China with facts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the larger event is very well curated, Niranjan, but the presentations were fantastic. They had an element of sophistication. They had those, graphs and Excel sheets and mix and match of information with global events, geopolitical events, connecting the dots. So the presentations really brought in proper contrast the connections between terror financing, those harboring terrorism, those shielding terrorism, those who oblige terror networks and just in some ways help in perpetrating those terror networks. So you rightly picked up the fact that in the presentation made by Intelligence Bureau's Safir Rizvi, he clearly showed that even before Pakistan was whitelisted, just this information that Pakistan would be out of the grey list emboldened these terrorist elements within the Pakistani society, of course protected by the Pakistani state, to increase terror activity, not just within Pakistan but outside as well. We have seen a spike happening in Kashmir, which had really tapered off post 2017 once Pakistan was grey-listed in 2018. So I think this has been amazing. Also, the sophistication with which all the tech evidence that has been part of Mumbai terror charge sheets, Niranjan, the clip, for example, of Sajid Mir, the role of a Pakistan army major, they sitting in a Karachi control room, directly guiding the terrorists who had come to Mumbai, and the fact that 5 mobile phones came from China that were being carried out by those terrorists who were communicating directly with Sajid Mir and the Pakistani major in the Karachi control room. I think this is fantastic. This is amazing. This really puts Pakistan and China on the map, and this really tells the world that this is what the cost of indulgence is. Remember, just about an hour back, all these people who were sitting in the hall and looking at those presentations paid their respects to the victims of 26/11 terror attack and the martyrs, and for them now to in any manner indulge with terror, disown, wink, look other way would not be possible, hopefully. And that's why India said that the FATF mechanisms need to be reviewed in a manner that the listings are more professional. They are not based on whims and fancies of changing quicksands of global geopolitical environment. We have seen Pakistan's whitelisting in some ways connected with the American change in the perception of America that Pakistan perhaps is becoming more relevant again post their leaving Afghanistan. So I think those things really need to be looked into, and India there clearly telling that Pakistan continues to harbor terrorists. We have shown pictures. The pictures were shown. Also review the mechanisms of FATF, and a message to China that there are many other terrorists who need to be
terrorists through the UN 1267 committee. All relevant parties should support these designations. No nation should stand in their way. Beyond ensuring full accountability for 26/11, we also have a responsibility to prevent future attacks like it. That requires addressing new and emerging threats, such as terrorists increasing abuse of technologies and the internet to finance and plan attacks, store assets, and radicalize and recruit members. The United States is working with the private sector to address these vulnerabilities, from getting financial technology companies to enhance and enforce policies aimed at preventing their illicit use, to helping platforms ensure that they're not hosting terrorist content and spreading hate. But we can't do it alone, and we're ready to work with all governments, multilateral bodies, and companies in this effort. Minister Jaishankar, fellow council members, as we reflect on the immeasurable loss of 2611, let it be a reminder to all of us of our unfinished work in holding accountable the perpetrators of its horrors and averting future terrorist attacks like it on any of our people, anywhere. Thank you.
I thank Secretary Blinken for his statement, and I now invite Her Excellency Ms. Reem Ibrahim Al-Hashimi, Minister of State for International Cooperation of the United Arab Emirates, to deliver her statement. Excellency, I invite you to the podium.
Well, you just heard Anthony Blinken. You just heard Anthony Blinken's message there. America also joining in this battle against terror. In fact, it's important to underline how the UNCTC came into being. This was after the 9/11 attacks, and one of the big mentions that India made. In fact, the Indian Secretary signed off by highlighting how symbolic targets have been chosen by terrorists to target India in the past. For example, they spoke about the Parliament attack. They spoke about how assemblies have been targeted in India. The Red Fort was targeted. And this is to highlight how, like in 9/11, this is India's fight. And they spoke of, and Anthony Blinken, one of the things you just heard him say now is that we must make sure that such attacks never take place. And in the last few days, let's look at what's happened diplomatically. Diplomatically, India, along with America, has tried to pile on the pressure on Pakistan. We've tried to put a block on and ensure that people like Talha Saeed, people like Sajid Mir, people like Zakir Rahman Lakwi, all of these terrorists are designated as global terrorists. China's come up with a technical block to ensure that India doesn't succeed in doing that. So India has made it clear in the last few days. In fact, we have categorically used this phrase again and again since 2611. I still remember that was one of the first times that Pakistan tried to draw a distinction. It was then only Pakistan trying to draw a distinction between good and bad terror. You remember that, Abhishek? And even today, when a country like China tries to sort of shield terrorists, India has made it clear, without of course naming China, that countries who also try and shield terror groups and terrorists are also as equally culpable. I'm not very sure, but if we do find a Chinese representative at this meeting, and I'm sure there is one, we will try and put that question to. It will be interesting to see what they have to say about China's block. China, while it likes to participate in these events, has also been instrumental in backing and giving Pakistan the diplomatic support and help that it needs. You've had so many powerful testimonies since this morning. Some of the survivors of the 2611 attack, in fact, one young girl who spoke about how she witnessed the attack. She was a victim. Family members were witnesses to the attack, and she angrily mentioned how she was furious to see that the masterminds of this attack are still alive in Pakistan, being shielded, and we speak about combating terror. It's one of the biggest themes every time we speak at global forums. We speak about combating terror, and yet some of the masterminds and perpetrators, conspirators of the biggest attacks are unpunished. Look what happened, for example, in the case of Zakir Rahman Lakwi. Until 2021 November, he was arrested, let off, and then picked up once again just towards the end of November 2021, if I'm not wrong, just so that Pakistan would be delisted. Just when they're facing trouble, they make these arrests to sort of give the world the impression that they're acting against terror, and then there you go again. People like Zakir Rahman Lakwi are released, and this is a game that Pakistan has played very, very well with China. And like India mentioned at this UN terror meeting, it's about time that you have a mechanism to ensure that it's not just a grouping that can decide, but there are norms that are adhered to so that countries like Pakistan don't get away, especially vis-a-vis the FATF mechanism. Abhishek.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think India did really well to underscore the kind of dissonance we see sometimes on dealing with terror between various nations, or the kind of pulls and pressures that this otherwise global evil is subject to, because of which these terror networks, these individual terrorists, these states backing terror, they sort of fall off the loop and go off the hook, and that's the reason why we presented the kind of evidence that we did. This is all part of court papers based on which convictions have happened. In fact, Ajmal Kasab was hanged till death because of this evidence, and there are many still in Pakistan, Sajid Mir being one of them, the Pak Major being another, and of course going right up to Hafiz Saeed, who are still to be brought to book, but for one reason or the other, connected with geopolitics, connected with individual equations between nations, connected with sometimes lack of resolve, if nothing else. These issues remain unaddressed, and that's what the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, focused the spotlight on, and the fact of India asking for review of FATF mechanisms, the fact of India asking for more designations of global terrorists, the fact of India wanting the world community to strengthen its resolve to deal with these issues, and for everyone really to appreciate this evidence in its entirety and with neutrality. I think those are very important takeaways from the presentations made by India between our agency officials from agencies, and then of course External Affairs Minister Niranjan. Of course, also let's not forget that before these presentations are made, and the other nations would also be giving in their own inputs. We saw Antony Blinken, Secretary of State of the United States, making that address just a while back, and before that, of course, the UNSG, Antonio Guterres, calling it evil. If that clarity is there and this evidence is there, then the two have to really come together and reflect in the kind of actions we take place, and the kind of whitelisting of Pakistan that has happened cannot be allowed. So I think with a lot of sophistication and not sounding rancorous, India presented all the evidence for the world to see and to take a decision on where things go from here. The setting could not have been more somber and more indicative and more symbolic, being at the iconic Taj from where you are reporting, Niranjan, which was the center of the 26/11 terror attack, masterminded by Pak-based terror organizations and incubated by the Pakistani deep state, all those having been unraveled by India before the world. For the first time, Niranjan, this is going to really trend all the day, because this is the first time we have shared this kind of evidence publicly on an international platform for the world to see the complicity of Pakistan and the indulgence of China. Remember, it was mentioned that 5 mobile phones that were being used by these terror operatives to perpetrate the 26/11 attack came from China. So I think that the global element and the world has to really sit up and take note of the struggles of India, and the exact evidence given, the connections given, the connecting the dot that happened between FATF actions and its fallout on Kashmir terror, on Afghan terror, on global terror. I think the world has to really be very open-minded about appreciating this evidence once it has been shared now in public domain. Niranjan.
Well, absolutely, and as we continue to broadcast live, it will be our top focus here on Republic TV. We will never forget those images from 14 years ago from this location where we are reporting from, the burning dome, Abhishek. You still remember people running helter-skelter when the attack took place at the CST, the first images of Ajmal Kasab. Our brave officers of the Mumbai police are fighting back those terrorists. and those who were martyred in those attacks, people running out of the Taj Hotel, shots being fired from outside the Taj Hotel. Now, these are images that are etched in our memory. And as we continue to focus on what India is trying to highlight at the UN terror meeting, I'd like to play out some of the testimonies of some of the survivors of not just the 26/11 terror attack. There are Indians who've been victims and survivors of terror attacks across the world, which have been masterminded by these terror groups. For example, you had a victim from the Belgium, the Brussels airport attack, who also spoke at this event this morning. Some of the testimonies now, let's play them out.
Ms. Maggie Fino, Deputy Minister for Europe, Victims and Survivors of Terrorism.
All right, we'll just okay. I'm just going to play out some of the testimonies for our viewers. You had survivors of the 26/11 speak about what they saw that night, what they witnessed, and why they continue to raise questions about how the global community has dealt with the aftermath of the 26/11 attack. You had baby Moshe, who was then a child, an adult now, speaking. Let's play those testimonies out, please.
אנשים ונשים יקרים, נציגים של כל אומות העולם במועצת הביטחון, שלום וברכה. שמי מוישי אולצברג מישראל. הייתי תינוק בן 2 לפני 14 שנה. גרתי עם ההורים היקרים שלי, גבי ורבקי, כאן במומביי, בנהרי מנאו. ההורים שלי בנו כאן בית חב"ד בשליחות הרבי מלובביץ'. בית חם ופתוח לכל אדם, יהודים ושאינם יהודים. האומנת שלי סנדרה השכיבה אותי לישון, כשלפתע נשמעו צרור יריות. מחבלים התפרצו לבניין שלנו וירו לכל עבר. הם רצחו את ההורים האהובים שלי ועוד 4 אורחים שהיו בבית חב"ד. סנדרה הצילה אותי מהתופת במסירות נפש. תודה לך השם הטוב. נשארתי יתום בלי אבא ואמא. סבא וסבתא שלי היקרים, הרב שמעון ויהודית רוזנברג.
मेरा नाम देविका नटवला रोटावन है। मैं मुंबई में रहती हूँ। 3rd ईयर बैचलर ऑफ आर्ट्स की स्टूडेंट हूँ।
Good morning, everyone. My name is Devika Rotavane. I am a resident of Mumbai, and I am a student of 3rd year graduation.
26/11/2008 की रात मैं मेरे फैमिली के साथ, मेरे पापा, मेरे भाई और मैं, हम तीनों पूना जाने वाले थे मेरे बड़े भाई को मिलने। CST स्टेशन हम कुछ 9:30 बजे के आसपास पहुंचते। वहाँ सडनली एक बॉम्ब स्पॉट होता है। अचानक से गोली फायरिंग होने लगती है। लोग भागने लगते। मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि आखिर वहाँ हो क्या रहा है। मेरे भाई भी अलग डायरेक्शन में भाग जाते हैं।
On the evening of 26 November, she was supposed to travel to Pune with her family, and that's why she has reached the Mumbai Chhatrapati Shivaji terminal. On that fateful night, she saw bullets being fired, and along with her father, they ran for cover.
मैं मेरे पापा के साथ भागने की कोशिश करती हूँ। हम भागने की कोशिश करते, वैसे एक गोली आके मेरे राइट पैर में लग जाती है। तभी मैं वहाँ एक शख्स को देखती हूँ जिसके हाथ में बड़ी सी गन है और वह अंधाधुंध गोली फायरिंग कर रहा है।
While we were trying to take cover and trying to seek shelter, a bullet hit my leg, and then we saw this dreadful face of a terrorist who was firing indiscriminately.
मैं बेहोश हो जाती हूँ। वहाँ से मुझे जेजे हॉस्पिटल लेके गए। वहाँ मेरा करीबन 6 ऑपरेशन हुआ। मेरे पैर से गोली निकाला गया। मेरी पैर की हड्डी टूट चुकी थी।
She fainted. She was taken to the hospital. She was operated upon, and the bullet taken out of her injured leg.
जब मेरी उम्र 9 साल 11 महीने की थी, जिस दिन मुझे गोली लगी।
She was 9 years 11 months when she was shot.
मुझे मुंबई ऑफिसर से कॉल आया गया कि आप कोर्ट में आके आइडेंटिफाई करोगे। हमने बोला हाँ। मेरे पापा ने दोनों आतंकवादी को देखा था और मैंने कसाब को। 10 जून 2009 को मैं और मेरे पापा ने जाके कोर्ट में कसाब को आइडेंटिफाई किया।
Subsequently, she received a call from the local police asking if she would be willing to testify against the terrorist who was caught in India. She checked with her parents and then they went across to the judicial courts and submitted their testimony.
तब से मेरा एक ही सपना है कि मैं एक पढ़ लिख के ऑफिसर बनूं और पूरे टेररिज्म को खत्म करूं।
Since then, she's had one singular dream to study, become hopefully a police officer and end the scourge of terrorism.
छब्बीस 11 हमला हमारे देश में 3 दिन तक चला था मुंबई में। उन 3 दिनों में हमने हमारे देश के कहीं ऑफिसर, कहीं बेस्ट से बेस्ट ऑफिसर खो दिया गए, कहीं लोग मारे गए, कहीं लोग घायल हुए। हमें पूरा इंसाफ जब मिलेगा जब वो टेररिज्म पूरा खत्म होगा जो आज भी मास्टरमाइंड जिंदा है। ना जाने उनके मन में क्या प्लानिंग होगा हमारे देश में या कहीं और जाके हमला करने का। मैं यही चाहती हूँ कि ऐसा हमला कहीं पर भी ना हो।
Thank you. The attacks lasted 3 to 4 days. Many brave policemen and armed forces lost their lives. She feels that proper justice would only be served when terrorism is completely eliminated from the face of this planet.
मैं यूएन के मेंबर से सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहती हूँ और अपने इंडियन गवर्नमेंट से कि ऐसे आतंकवाद के खिलाफ कड़ी से कड़ी कानून बनाया जाए कि कोई भी आतंकवाद हमारे देश में या कहीं पर भी हमला करने के पहले 100 बार सोचे कि किसी की भी जान ना लिया जाए।
It is important that the UN and the international community makes the strictest laws to ensure that such acts don't happen ever again.
मुझे यहाँ इनवाइट करने के लिए आप सभी को थैंक यू। जय हिंद, जय भारत, जय महाराष्ट्र।
Honorable Minister for External Affairs of India, Shri S. Jaishankar ji, Honorable Members of the United Nations Security Council, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to extend my gratitude to Madam Ruchira Kamboj, Permanent Representative of India to the United Nations, for inviting me over to be a part of this in memoriam. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Nidhi Chafikar. I was an air hostess with Jet Airways. I loved my job as flying crew as it made me feel limitless in